You're listening to the Getting Salty Experience podcast.
We're back. We are back. Getting Salty, Leatherhead Nation. Welcome to the Getting Salty Experience podcast. It's the only one that brings the Firehouse kitchen table to you. Like I always said, self-proclaimed best G-damn podcast in the whole stratosphere. Right, Ruff?
Give me another one. That's all I'm asking.
I couldn't. You know, Joe Rutt. What? No. Nope.
Never heard of him.
Nope.
Never heard of her.
Oh wait, how you feeling, little buddy?
I feel
you guys
good.
don't know my little buddy over there. He finally got him.
They finally got me. Those some of them are bitches.
The scary bug.
Plague. The bug.
The bug.
The
bug.
to the V to the D. Got him, bro.
Yikes.
Got me.
Couldn't come with us to New England.
So Louis, you how did it go? Like, what was the progress of it? Was it mellow, generally speaking?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think we got back from Syracuse, and probably like 2 days after that.
So we had to call in Cliffy, our boy Cliffy, the long reliever, to come with me up to New England Chief show. But Cliffy has a theory that, you know, due to the back-to-back shows, that Ruffy took out a Sharpie and he took the old tester and did, I can't make it. I got COVID. Coobs, I got COVID. I can't make it.
COVID.
I'm on my deathbed, Coob.
I just spent
golf today.
I did play golf today.
I just spent a week on the boat with and at the last day the guy got COVID and I was like, oh shit, great.
Which guy?
My wife's best friend's husband.
Oh,
I was sitting across the table from him at dinner every night, and I was going, "Oh no, I'm gonna have COVID." But I tested, I'm fine. So
Dante saying, "Nice, you spread it all over Fayetteville."
Yeah. We had breakfast there. Dante, we gave you a little COVID omelet. Listen, I was in the room with him. I was in a car with him. We were out drinking every night. So allegedly,
you had it before. You had it before, right?
Twice.
Right. I don't even see, like, I've heard conflicting stuff that you can't get it twice and then you can get it twice.
I had it twice.
Yeah,
so,
that's crazy.
It wasn't that bad. I mean, I had 2 days that was a little crappy, but for the most part, I
got to ask a quick question. So while Pete was on the boat, I got this picture, and I'm just saying to myself, can you see this picture or no?
Hey!
Like I want to know what
Gladiator.
I want to know what Pete's wife was doing for shoe wear.
My wife doesn't have a hairy Croatian leg. Sorry to tell you.
No, I'm just saying. That's your leg, but you borrowed her shoes.
Best purchase I ever made. I'm gonna give them a free plug. Bedrock sandals. Holy smoke! If you're rocking Tevas, it's over for you. These are the best, man. I was running them.
Talking about, Ruff? I have no idea what he's talking about.
I guess they give out free when they get the free vacation. You get free sandals too,
dude. It was the best. It was the best free vacation I've ever had in my life.
I've never seen a free vacation. I was watching some of the pictures you posted. I'm like, man. Is this guy kidding me? He was waking up next to the ocean, like on a cliff, like with the water. Like, are you kidding me? With this.
Dude, how do you beat that? You know,
that was in our own
vacation.
Just so you know,
Tinkerbell leaves slippers at you.
Just so you know, that was in my own private villa. That was our section of the villa. And then next door was my friend.
Must be loaded.
He's doing. He just sold his business. He just sold his business. It's done. Why don't you hit us
up in a super chat?
I think he spent all his money. He spent all his money with me.
Money on vacations and sandals, none left.
Oh my God, it was quite a trip, man. Go to Greece, everybody. That was a once in a lifetime.
Cliffy and I, Louis and I did a little Syracuse, and Cliffy and I had to take the mantle, and we went up to New England. We met a whole bunch of cool guys up there. The Leo Minster, FD. There was like fucking 10 guys from there. I met this young kid, Brantley. He's got to be about 8. He knows more about the show than. Then again, I was day drinking, so I was probably so blasted.
That's a cute kid.
He is a cute kid, man. Brantley, my boy. A great kid.
How big was that firehouse that we went to in
Syracuse?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
They had the flowers. They had the flower baskets hanging out front, like six bays. They had all the flower baskets with these beautiful flowers. I'm like, if that was on Sheffield Avenue, there'd be like a root sticking out of there, like
There wasn't an iota of dust on it. You know how on the ceiling fans used to get the grease in the kitchen? Nothing.
It looked like a Taj Mahal.
It did. It's Taj Mahal of fire.
They do. Cool. It's nice though. The guys do a nice job. They kept it.
We got other fish to fry. So what happened, T?
Oh, I just lost a mouse for some crazy reason. So now I got to switch.
My
backup.
You got hardwire?
Now I'm going to go hardwire. Oh, there it is. Whoops, there it is.
Wow.
That's it. All right.
Now I heard I'm being sued. Actually.
Well, we'll get to that.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that.
When Petey gets through the commercials, there is a lawsuit pending. It's Kevin Kubler versus Louis Refrano.
Let's just get to that later. It's our first legal matter ever on the show, and I hate to see this happen to good friends. But first and foremost, guys, you guys know the deal. We always have the best sponsors, and tonight we are once again sponsored by New Jersey Fire Equipment Company. Established in 1930 and under the current ownership since 1987, the New Jersey Fire Equipment Company handles a complete line of fire department equipment and supplies. Headquartered in Greenbrook, the company operates full 3M Scott service facilities in Ridgefield Park and Toms River, staffed by 10 fully authorized Scott certified technicians with a fleet of 6 fully equipped service vans. All New Jersey fire technicians and sales representatives are active or retired firefighters, officers or chief officers, career and volunteer. They understand the business and the importance of their work. New Jersey Fire has represented Scott since Earl Scott entered the SCBA business at the end of World War II. Among other leading manufacturers represented by New Jersey Fire are Globe and Firedex Turnout Gear, Mercedes Hose, Task Force Tips and Akron Brass, Hygenol, Firehooks, Arctic Compressors, MSA Carnes Helmets, ChemGuard Foam, Alkalite and Duo Safety Ladders, BA Face Shield Protectors, Truckman's Choice Saws, Grove's Gear Racks and Washer Dryers, Supervac Fans, RPI, Streamlight, and many others. A New Jersey incorporated and based company, sales and service are limited to the state of New Jersey. Find us now at www.njfe.com. That's www.njfe.com.
Nice job.
Okay.
Thank you. A shout out to you Dizzy too. You Dizzy gave me some stickers there. He was a cool dude.
And a couple quick more things, guys. GettingSaltyApparel.com. GettingSaltyApparel.com. The guys, you know that's how this whole thing got started. Kevin and Lou with the t-shirts, the hats, the apparel, the firefighter accessories. You can get a hat just like this. That tumbler over there that Mr. Coobs is drinking out of. T-shirts, hats, apparel, all that cool, funny, awesome stuff. What did we just get? Underwear in or something?
We did. They're in the pull in case of emergency underwear and the repack dry. What is it? Repack? Dry and tomorrow. Repack hose when finished.
Dry and repack hose.
They'll be on sale tomorrow.
Very nice, guys. So if you guys want to buy something for yourself or any other firefighter, friends and family in your life, head on over to GettingSaltyApparel.com. Also, guys, tonight, if you're watching live, hit us up in the super chat. You guys are our #1 sponsors as always. So if you want to throw us a few shekels, feel free to do it in the super chats tonight. Guys, also, if you're watching this post-mortem, that means after the show's live, we have something new called the Super Thanks. Works just like the Super Chat. Scroll on down. You'll see a little dollar symbol on the lower and a little heart around it next to the lower right-hand corner of the screen. It's little donations like that. No matter what, even if they're teeny tiny, they really help out a lot. So we look forward to that, and we thank you guys in advance for the Super Thanks.
Awesome.
All right.
Yes. And listen, tonight's going to be a very informative show. We got two guys that Ruffy and I look up to, like you couldn't imagine these two guys how what an impact they made on our career, and we're going to keep going up. We were kidding around in the chat saying before we had Chief Richardson, where do we go from there? But these two guys are at the top when it comes to knowledge and when it comes to fire duty experience and good stories. So it's going to be an informative show. As we bring them in, though, we do have to clear up that legal matter, Pete. We'll bring them in. We'll do the pledge.
And then we'll get into the legal matter.
We'll take care of the legal matter before we get to the heavy knowledge part.
I have all the documents here.
You do.
Well. You do. Yeah. So we'll go through that. We'll go through that. Okay. All right. So
let's bring him in here. My Captain El Capitan, Dennis Murphy, and all the way back from Boca Vista, the old man River, senior dude, Henry Molle. Henry. That's Frank Molle and Captain Dennis Murphy. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Hello, Leatherhead Nation. Great to be back.
Good evening,
what's up, guys?
Good evening.
We got a very informative show. We have something that Captain Murphy actually gave this idea. Cap, you want to tell us a little bit about it, where it came from?
Yeah, sure. The guys asked to do a kitchen drill, and we were going to do that, and that's actually what it is. But we decided to dedicate it to my captain, my first captain's memory, Tom Brennan, who was a big influence on my career and on the fire service in general, because he was not only was he an FDNY legend, but he left the FDNY. He was not too far away on the battalion chief's list. Became the editor of fire engineering, was there for a long time, left there. When he retired from there, he went to Waterbury, Connecticut, was the chief in Waterbury, Connecticut, and then presented forever till the late 2000s until he passed away at the major conventions. The last time I saw him was at the FDIC, which I think I mentioned at the first time I was on. But this is just a tribute to him. He used to write a column in the back of Fire Engineering. Now, that shows you the kind of dinosaurs you're dealing with here, because we got magazines. They got delivered to your house. You open them up. You read it, and that's how you learned, and books and stuff. They didn't have the interweb back then. So,
right. Those are the ones that the pinups you would put on your locker?
Right next to the rotary phone. Yeah. So anyway, this idea was just to bring current topics or things that we feel are important in no particular order, just like you're kicking around the kitchen table. That's what we're all about here. So we're going to do that today with a number of very different topics, but it's in memory of Tom Brennan and the way he did things, and one of the best teachers I ever worked with. So just keeping his, not too many guys can work a career in the fire service in different aspects of the fire service, retire, pass away, and we're still talking about him 10 to 15 years later. So that's the kind of guy he was.
That's awesome.
Nice,
that's
man.
Awesome. All right, Pete, before we get into this, let's get patriotic before we forget, and Susie loses her panties over there.
Don't lose them. Don't lose them, Susie. And as you guys all know, we are also the most patriotic show on the web, self-proclaimed, of course. And tonight we bring you the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Beautiful.
I'll be pledging allegiance with my concealed carry permit, you pricks. Goddamn right. Thank you, Supreme Court. Thank you, Clarence Thomas. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amen. Clarence Thomas.
Amen for the Constitution. Speaking of law, Pete, can we get this court case out of the way really quick? So
okay.
Maybe you want to bring it in
here. First and foremost, I want to bring in the criminal
court
docket.
to order. Let me bring the court to order. Go ahead.
First and foremost, we have to bring in the docket. So let me read the docket. This is from the Long Beach Municipal Court. Criminal docket I-81U812, City of Long Beach, New York. This is the defendant Kevin Kubler versus Louis Refrano, retained. And it's Louis Refrano's date of birth here is 6/19/1850. I don't know how that works out, but anyway, and this is signed 6/27/2022, citation number 696969 by Officer Zivkovich. That sounds very familiar. We have first and foremost Section 1. Entitled, yes, he is. That is the claim against Mr. Refrano. Yes, he is entitled. And Section 2, he got the wrong breakfast sandwiches, apparently. And what's going on with this is that the defendant's bond is set for 3 McMuffins. But he's also suing for punitive damages and for 2 things, for an apology and for 3 McMuffins, apparently. Yes. So this is the actual legal court document from Long Beach. Okay. And
May I present my case? May I present my case?
Please do, and you can call in your exhibits after, but go ahead, Kev.
Okay. Yes, I would like to call Pete Zivkovic to testify. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Oh, and I forgot to mention Judge Wapner is going to be
okay. Really quick.
Yes, I do.
Okay, so let's say you didn't have time for breakfast one morning and somebody was already in a bad mood, you could tell, but that's neither here nor there. So he says, let's just let's just get McDonald's. We'll get McDonald's. All right, no problem.
Yep.
So you drive up and the guy says to you, what do you want? And I say, I would like 3 Egg McMuffins with no cheese, please. What would you ask for, Mr. Zivkovic? And may I remind you, you're under oath. What would you ask for?
If you asked me, if anyone asked me to get them 3 Egg McMuffins with no cheese, I would say, can you please, sir, can I please have, or ma'am, 3 Egg McMuffins with no cheese, please?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So would you say that if you said to the person, let me have 3 Egg McMuffins, egg only, that might be confusing to a nitwit that's maybe working at McDonald's, correct?
The assumption is there, but yes, it could be. Yes, correct, I would say.
Yeah. So then when you pull up to the window and you say to your partner, hey, dude, I think that guy's confused. Just tell him, give me 3 Egg McMuffins, no cheese. And he turns to you and says, hey, shut the fuck up. You're making this really complicated now. Shut up. I got it. I can handle this, right? And you drive away.
Yeah.
You drive away. You open up your bag of McDonald's, and lo and behold, all the Egg McMuffins have cheese. But 3 of them are missing Canadian bacon. So I say to you, we have, can I present the Exhibit A really quick, Pete, and Exhibit B very quick?
Oh, okay. Exhibit A here is the product description of a standard McMuffin, which consists of a slice of Canadian bacon, a griddle fried egg, and a slice of American cheese on a toasted and buttered English muffin.
Thank you. So when you say to the defendant,
what about Exhibit B? You want Exhibit B yet?
No, that's fine. I think we have enough evidence here. It's plain to see. You say to him, hey, listen, I told you I was going to get the wrong thing. And he turns to you and again scolds you. And you say, all right, whatever. I'll eat the cheese, even though I'm lactose intolerant. And I might wind up shitting myself in the show. I leave it alone. I come out. I go to the gas station. I get whatever I got to get. I come back like 5 minutes later. I open the door. And there he is still going off. Why the fuck do you got to eat this way anyway? Why can't you eat like a normal human being? Why do you got to be different? What the fuck is wrong with you? This, who even knows, with a piece of Canadian bacon in his hand, flopping it around like this. What if this isn't even meat? This is not meat. Opens up the window. This ain't meat. Why do you? They're not even meat. Who the fuck knows what's on the egg? Who knows what's on the egg muffin anyway? With the diet soda and the fucking no cheese, start eating like a normal human being. And that's it. We drive to the show.
Is it my statement? Is it my statement yet?
Okay, so we've heard.
I'm going to wrap it up. We drive to the show, and said person has to proceed to ask just about every single person that comes into the booth. By the way, do you know what's on an Egg McMuffin? I was very hurt, so I'm suing for punitive damages. An apology and 3 Egg McMuffins with no cheese. Thank you. That's all.
I didn't realize you guys were married.
I was hurt at work today.
I was hurt at work today.
All
right, so, Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the prosecution would have you believe that Lou Rafrano is guilty for a crime as heinous as ordering an Egg McMuffin. But today, we will prove otherwise. First, we will call Lou Rafrano to the stand, Kevin Kubler's close friend and coworker. Louis will show that McDonald's breakfast food titles are Fugazi and Fungura. Then we will call one Henry Molle, a qualified breakfast eater, good-looking fella, and all-around good guy, who will testify in Mr. Rafrano's facts that he will show.
Excuse me, that's leading the witness.
Come on.
Pete, can you do me a favor? Can you do me a favor? Pete, I understand. Pete, can you do me a favor? Can you just punch up the McDonald's website, please, for 1 second?
Sure. Just give me
just a quick thing. The breakfast menu.
McDonald's. McDonald's.
Maybe you should have submitted this to the court before, so I had a chance to look at it. That's called discovery. I don't know if you know that. That's called discovery.
You know what that's called? That's called backpedaling. That's what that's called.
Oh no!
Ow! Okay, stand by. I'm pulling up the. I'm pulling it up quickly. Stand by, man.
All right, so I'm gonna move ahead.
Senior dude was not ready for this.
Breakfast menu. The first one there is Egg McMuffin. If you click on Egg McMuffin, you would think that an Egg McMuffin would be an egg and cheese, because if you read that, it says an egg toasted egg English muffin with Canadian bacon and real American cheese and egg. Next one, please. Move on.
Okay.
Now that says Egg McMuffin. The next one says Sausage McMuffin. So, Henry, if you had to guess what would be on that, on just a Sausage McMuffin, what would be on it? If an Egg McMuffin has cheese, Canadian bacon, and an egg, what would Sausage McMuffin have?
It's going to have cheese on it no matter what.
Okay, so now let's go to the next one. So sausage
involved in this.
So Sausage McMuffin has sausage and cheese.
Right.
But now you can go Sausage McMuffin with egg. You can go sausage biscuit with egg. So basically every description on the breakfast menu has exactly what's on it, except an Egg McMuffin, which has Canadian bacon, which I don't know where they stuck that from. Because if you wanted bacon, you could have bacon, egg, McMuffin, but it all comes with cheese, which I did not know. So my point is that if you go to McDonald's all the time, you would understand that this comes with Canadian bacon. But if you don't go to McDonald's all the time, based on the description, you wouldn't know that it has Canadian bacon.
Oh my God.
Okay. So in closing arguments, I just want to remind Mr. Fano that he has many times in my company, in fact, eaten an Egg McMuffin.
I have.
So it's not like the first time that an alien just beamed the Egg McMuffin down into his goddamn hands and he's seen an Egg McMuffin for the first time.
All right, let's move on.
Okay. So can we please have Captain Murphy and Hank and Pete please render a decision in this case, please?
Oh, we have to talk about it. All right. Poor Captain Murphy. Look at the look on the man's face. He came here to give like 40 years of knowledge.
Egg McMuffin.
If a guy says, "Let me have an Egg McMuffin with no cheese,"
you know what's going through my mind right now? You know what's going through my mind?
Why am I on the show?
Yes, exactly.
Precisely.
What's going through my mind is I'm starting to understand how we drove Hazmat crazy. 20 years later, but I get it now.
My second guess was going to be, I picked these two guys to be in the squad.
Well, hold on. Let's get this straight. I was playing golf today. I forgot all about this thing. He's like, "Oh, you better be prepared. We're going to."
You want to know why? Because Hank told me you better tell Frano a heads up. And he's got it's a discovery phase. Otherwise, we're going to clear it in mistrial.
Yeah.
So I had to tell him.
I would have never even thought
this
about
is I've rendered my own personal decision, and this is it.
Shut up,
silly woman.
All right, so we're not going to get a decision. I see you guys don't want to render in. Should Mr. Kugler
This
get
is enough to make me turn vegan.
No, I'll do it. No problem.
Yeah. Okay, Cap.
Guilty.
Who's guilty?
All of you.
All right.
Oh my
God. Second part. Now the penalty phase. Time served. Let's go.
The captain was right in the beginning.
Dennis, that time served is more or less for you and me having to listen to this bullshit.
My shit's crooked now. What do I do?
Oh my God! Right. Rob Bates in the chat says, ever since Coobs became Italian, he has been an argument waiting for a place to happen. Oh, shit, that's so good.
I just wish you could have seen, like, it was 10 minutes in the gas station. I come out, he's still on it like a pit bull. He's like, I don't even. What
Garrett said lack of fire duty breeds this stuff. It's lack of fire duty, Cap.
Lack of fire duty.
Right.
All right, let's get to random thoughts. Here we go. Very first episode. Thanks, Cap. Thanks for putting up with that, Hank, too.
No, it is like a kitchen drill because this is how it goes, right? I mean, guys are breaking each other's chops, and then okay, let's start talking about this.
I want to know why somebody that treats his body like a temple would want to go to McDonald's to eat.
I had no choice. We weren't going to the diner. We weren't going to the diner because the
gas station sushi.
Listen, please do me a favor. In the comment section after the show, please chime in whether you think Mr. Frano owes me an apology and 3 egg McMuffins with no cheese. That's all. In the comment section after the show. Thank you. Pete,
Shooter 120 says, I award you no points and may God have mercy on your soul. And to quote Billy Madison. Oh my God. All right. Well, Cap, should I pull up your
Take it away, Cap.
Your wonderful PowerPoint?
Yeah, just start it and we'll just go from there. Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Okay, next slide.
I just want to call a little attention to this.
Next slide.
All right.
That previous picture was from Del Boca Vista when we were down there, I think 2 years ago.
Nice. Del Boca.
But anyway, so like I said earlier, this is dedicated to the memory of Tom Brennan. And this is one of his most famous sayings. You can never learn too much about a job that can kill you. First time I ever heard that was from him. I mean, he may have gotten it from somewhere else, but I see guys all over using it now. So, but the first time I ever saw it, and definitely the first time I ever saw it attributed in the fire service was him. So,
is that him on the right, Cap?
That's him on the right in the bucket with 120, and then he's on the right in the picture on the left. That's me all the way on the left, Joe McDermott, Willie Green, and Captain Brennan doing his critique. I want you to notice something there. You notice we're facing the younger guys are facing him, and we're looking away from the building. He did that intentionally. Years later, he told me that, so that he was looking at so he's critiquing here. You know, all right, where did you go? Where did you go? How did you get there? I mean, I'm not kidding. He asked you that after a fire. He said, all right, you had the OV. Now, I think Joe and I had the irons and the can. But he would ask you, how did you get there? If you had the remote positions, how'd you get to the roof? Which did you go up an adjacent building? Did you go up the aerial? Did they drop you off in the butt? You know, he would have a question, and he was just looking to see if you were thinking. You know what I'm saying? And how you were thinking. And as Hank will tell you, you know, the fire duty was, you know, we keep saying this, but it is true. It was so much easier then, because you got the opportunity on a much more regular basis to practice your craft, you know, and everybody who was there at that time knows it. It's much harder now, you know, if you make a mistake, you know, we used to kid around. You made a mistake like getting to the roof, you probably get to do it again later in the day, you know, and today you can go months without a roof job, you know, so it's harder to gain experience, it's harder to learn, you know, and it's harder to reinforce those important lessons that you need to learn going through things. So next slide.
And that's why we're doing this here, Cap, because the fire duty isn't there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's a lot of stuff. Listen, just with the 4 of us here, just with the guests you get on here regularly, you know, you have such a depth of experience just to do a couple of things. One is to talk about the way things were and to get firsthand stories of days gone by. It is something that, I mean, it's going out the door every day between retirements and then guys dying all the time. You know, it's just, I look at like some very good friends of mine, guys that I've mentioned on this show, they can't come on now. You know, they've got health issues or whatever. So their stories are gone. You know what I'm saying? For all intents and purposes, we're not going to hear their stories. But the more guys you get on shows like this, you're doing a great service, because guys 100 years from now will be able to look back on these things and say, you know, and listen to the way things were, you know? Right.
And the things they teach, you can't get out of a book, Cap. I mean, the things you're going to talk about tonight, you can't get them out of a book. They only come from these stories.
Absolutely. You know, there's all these little gems of how guys do things and little tricks of the trade that, you know, and half the time you forget half of them until somebody reminds you of it. You know, you may have done it every day, but, you know, you forget about it. But one of the things I just wanted to say in the last month, a good friend of mine, a guy I worked with, that all of us worked with in Rescue 2, Richie Evans, he worked with Hank in 132 before he went to Rescue 2. Richie passed away after a long illness. I saw him last year at the Rescue 2 breakfast. He's a great guy. He was the heart and soul of Rescue 2. He really was back in the day. And just, you know, even his wake was an affair. You know, it was just so many guys. It's a shame that it has to be like that, but it's just so many guys that you don't see, but they make the effort to come up. And I just wanted the picture on the right of the guys carrying Richie out of the church. just want you to notice something here to show you what a maniac he was.
Blue coffin, rescue blue.
That
first thing I
coffin
saw
was custom painted for him.
Yeah, no doubt. It stood out to me, Cap.
Yep, absolutely. So,
Cap, what were you saying about his in the pre-show? You were saying we were talking when everybody left about the mask that he has on there that he's walking with.
Oh, that's the original Scott one. That was the one, with the two eyeballs. That was what they had before the 4.5. And there was a number of companies that was still running with that. Like when I got on the job, that was still out there. So most of the companies in Brooklyn had switched to the 4.5. Rescue was still using the old Scott. They kind of preferred it. They were one of the last companies off of it. Why? I don't know. I wasn't there then. It was bigger, clunkier, or whatever. But it didn't give you any more air, but I'm sure there was a reason why they liked it. It was probably more agreeable for wearing.
Look at that picture too. He's got his hook, and he's carrying a line,
and he's got a nozzle. Yeah, a lot of guys forget that about the rescue is that occasionally you went to work as you stretched the line. That did happen. It didn't happen all the time, but it happened. And
you got a line somehow.
Well, you got a line, but usually you wind up stretching it, or they told you go to relieve somebody, you traveled a distance or whatever. But those are the kind of you got to be able to do everything, and you got to be prepared to do everything.
Right.
And Richie spent most of his time in trucks before going to rescue too. So it wasn't like he was a dyed-in-the-wool engine guy, but there were times when it's time to go and it's time to make that move, and he certainly did it as good as anybody. So to Richie's family, to Denise, his daughter, and to his entire family, just we miss him.
Yeah, Hank.
I'm sorry, because I'm still having internet issues. Like every 60 seconds, you guys cut out, and I'm missing like 2 or 3 words. But just those old masks, they weren't like you guys are used to now, where they were mounted in the seat. They were kept in a box, with the latches on in a compartment. So, when you got to the job, you had to pull the box out, throw that mask on, and it was just like Dennis said. I know when I got on. The doorman and the control man still had to wear those masks if you were going to wear them at all.
Well, a lot of old timers we talked to said that the nozzle man and the backup didn't take it. It was the door and the control man who would grab the mask because they would.
Right.
After the nozzle man and the backup man got the shit beat out of them, they would go in and they had to push in further.
Yeah, that was pretty much the way it was when I got on the job. Right. So it was just.
And they weighed a ton. They weren't light like the ones now, like 22.
And they had a whole procedure. I used to have it at home of how that was supposed to be stored in the box that Hank's talking about. The straps had to be folded a certain way, and when it was put away and everything, it was interesting, but it wasn't the most used piece of equipment. Yeah. I think Tommy Richardson talked about in his thing about us going to a fire. He was talking about Captain, then Chief Downey when Ray Downey was the captain of Rescue 2. I was working for that fire too, and here's a guy who was one of the toughest guys I ever worked with in smoke. It's guys like him, Dennis Conway, and Bobby Shea from 111, Pete Bondi. We all had that group of really hard charges that we worked with, and I always remember because when Tommy said that, I was like, oh shit, I remember that. We go to this really funky basement fire in a shoe store. It's just coming out with edges, and and here's a guy, Ray Downey, who never put a mask on. He had it on his back, but he very rarely put it on. And he just calmly just takes it out and like textbook starts unfurling this, and puts it on. And everybody looked at each other and goes, "Oh shit,
this is not good."
I hope I got mine.
Yeah, and
this is not good.
That just didn't make an impression on Tommy Richardson. That made an impression on everybody that was standing next to him that night. And I remember he sent me to the back of the store to open up the back. So I go running around the back of the store. It was a row of stores. So I go running around. There's a parking lot in the back. I find the entrance to the store. It's pumping out. And you know how it has the staircase that goes down, and there's a door down there, right? The staircase and the enclosure, the entire staircase is filled with garbage. the entire thing up to and over the top. So all I'm doing now in the back here, I'm a firefighter, right? And I'm just forcing as best I could. I don't think I ever got that back door open because they called me, and then I said we're gonna have a problem. There's gonna be a delay on this back door, and I think they changed their mind and they hid it for a while and then they came out. But but that's the way those masks were. You know, it was crazy.
That sounds familiar. How Capt is going to be a delay in getting the back door?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, Father's Day.
What could go wrong, right?
Yeah, what could go wrong? Yeah.
All right, next slide.
All right, coming up.
Rest in peace, Richie.
There you go.
Okay, so we're going to talk about a couple of fires that are fairly recent, and then we're going to move into the rest of the flow is going to be hazards of buildings under construction, which both Hank and I have a background in after we retired. We're just going to share a few thoughts on that. But earlier this year, I know you guys talked about it. There was this fire back in January in the Bronx. Really historic fire if you look at it. Over 40 injuries, 17 civilians killed. I think, let me see, I forget how many it was. It was number of like 40 injuries, 44 injuries, 13 critical. So I just want you to think about that for a second. 17 deaths and 44 injuries, 13 of them critical. So the 13 and the 17, right? That's 30 total. Those are all people that are basically incapacitated for sure, and probably some of the other 44, right? You know, the other group. Think about the resources required for something like this. Like, so for every person that's down, depending on their size, it's going to take 2 to 4 firefighters to get them out. Think about the amount of work that is, just physical labor to get them out. And I remember, and again, it was Tommy Richardson who was saying, I think in one of the news conferences there that, you know, what has he got, like almost 40 years on the job. He had never seen that many people, like 19, 20 people in the street getting CPR.
Yep.
You know, really kudos to the EMS people that were there, to our EMS divisions and responders that go and do such a great job day in and day out. And here it's showtime for them. And they stepped up in a big way, as well as the firefighters who had to get everybody out and start working on them as soon as they could. So again, we're going to talk about a couple of big fires involving, you know, logistics for firefighting. But just remember, when you get victims, and especially numbers of victims, it takes a lot of manpower to manage that, you know. And there was so much stuff going on here between people going down, the smoke condition, people overcome, the fire itself, which was difficult.
Fire out.
Yeah. It was a duplex down. For a lot of guys that don't know what that means that when you go to the apartment door, it doesn't matter. This was, I think, on the third floor, but when you go to the door, you go in and there's an apartment, right? Then there's an access stairs that goes downstairs. So basically, when you get these fires in these buildings, it's like fighting a basement fire, you know, at whatever level it is in the high rise, right? I remember going to one in Coney Island. It was in the 20s, and it was, again, Coney Island is right on the ocean. You know, it's a high building. The wind is blowing, and I remember what happened in the end. There is we breached a wall from a lower floor, but those were different buildings. They had duplexes up and duplexes down, you know. And so what am I saying this? I wasn't at this fire. I don't know. But what I do know is that if you have these buildings, these very unique type of buildings in your response area, you really got to get out and get into them and go through them and make sure you understand how they're laid out, you know, because it might be, you know, you might not be able to get in. I actually go to the next slide, Pete.
You got it.
If you look here at this picture, that's what this slide, that's the staircase taken from the front door to the apartment going down. So I don't know if you can see that staircase right there, but this is all sheetrock. This is you know, one of the first buildings with performance-based codes in New York, where they were allowed to replace cinder block, even in the hallway walls are all this heavy sheetrock. You know, it's like 2-inch sheetrock. But this stuff doesn't hold up. I don't care what it does in the test, because you can, anybody who's been to these, you guys have been to them. You can walk up to these buildings after they've had a serious fire and put your finger through that wall. It's not like a cinder block wall where maybe some of it's spoiled on the inside, but you could still lean against it. It's still got its integrity. So that's what happens here too. And so you have to be careful that this isn't going to jump from apartment to apartment. It'll hold it for a while, but that's it. Well,
sheetrock has a moisture content, and like you say, once it's exposed to the heat and the open flame, it loses its moisture, becomes very brittle, and that's why they have it has a certain amount of fire resistance. After that,
yeah. Well, what he's saying is it's not going to hold up. So,
nah,
you're back, Egg.
He's back.
Yeah, listen, unfortunately, it's a little annoying for me because like I said, I'm hardwired tonight, but every 60 seconds, who's ever talking, I lose you for like 5 seconds of talking. So it's
that's because the lady in the next apartment is screaming Judge Judy.
You know what, too, Cap? You're saying the manpower, especially at this fire, because a lot of those victims were on upper floors.
I think
so.
There was a big problem with doors, right?
Right.
Yes.
With the self-closing doors. I think 15 was the floor you were talking about, Kev.
Yeah, so that's going to involve even more manpower to get them down from that higher level.
Yeah.
And also, we had them in our area over. Louis knows this. Over at Roosevelt Island, we had those up and downs. And the problem with those is some of them would be, and you would only see on the outside of the door, right, Roof? There would be an arrow up or an arrow down telling you. But if any of that's out in the hallway, you ain't seeing that, so you don't know if it's going up or down.
Problem is too where it's showing. If it's out the window, you might think it's like when we did that show. Again, we weren't critiquing the job. We were just talking about the job, and that window scheme on that wall was so haphazard. There was no way to figure out what even was going on there. You couldn't say the fire was on 3 or 4, or we had those same types of buildings. With the duplexes up and down in East New York, I mean? It was always a problem. They never went well. A lot of times those apartments would connect to the garage, and it would be a long staircase up. So if the car was on fire and it got into the stair, it just was impossible. It was impossible.
The other problem with these buildings is more than one stairway. They're all supposed to be self-closing doors. Right. Which is a nice.
You know what else the problem is? Internet in those buildings is a big problem.
Poor Hank.
I love it.
Am I back or no?
Yeah, we're back. Yeah.
All right. So the doors are chocked open. The other thing we talk about, all right, the random thought. If this is your department or a building in your district, you're gonna pick an attack stairway, so that means that door is going to be open. Well, the one that you're using for evacuation, do you have enough firefighters to actually get in that evacuation stair, make sure those doorways are closed, and to help aid civilians down? Because this wasn't the only fire just in New York where civilians died on the upper floors. You go back a few years, right on 43rd Street. Right down the street from Rescue 1, they had a fire in like a 45-story condo there, and 2 guys got trapped like 15 floors above the fire in the fire stairwell, and one died, and the other was in the hospital for a long time with monoxide poisoning. So, that is a big issue in these type of fires. As far as stairway use.
I think 20 years before they had a serious fire, and it was a WNYF article. They had a serious fire in this exact same building, so that was bad enough that they.
Oh, right. Yeah, we did talk about that. Yeah.
So, all right, Pete, next slide.
Okay. And Riverhead.
Okay. Yeah, now we're switching to commercial. This was a fire out in Riverhead in March, right after St. Patrick's Day. Just a fairly routine fire. The Riverhead Fire Department put it right out, probably one engine company, but it never extended inside the building. All right. So I just want you to bear this in mind. Not that they're apples and oranges, but getting fires in these types of buildings, every community has them. If you don't have it, your next town has it. And if it, anything like what's going on today, if it's anything serious, you're going to be going. That's what's changing in the fire service, is that the staffing levels are dropping, and when you get these incidents, these high risk incidents or these bigger fires, and you have minimal staffing like during the day, it's going to take more and more units to get it under control, and they're going to have to call for more help. So this is one they had outside. You can see in the picture on the right, a bunch of lawn chairs. It's kind of weird. I don't think they ever came out with a cause or a determination of this, but again, this store was open the next day for business. So it was,
Really?
it was the bottom line of a problem. Again, basically an outside fire up against the building. So let's go to. Go ahead.
They always stack those lawn chairs. When the summer season comes out, like at Ace or Home Depot and stuff.
Yeah.
They do that outside just because they have nowhere to store it. But
yeah, it's a lot of it's like anything else. It's a lot of combustible material. But I don't know. I never heard that lawn chairs or lawn furniture of any type was a high hazard. It's just it's still a little odd. That the fire started anyway. But anyway. But it's what I think most of us would consider a fairly routine operation, as far as it certainly had the potential, but it was quickly mitigated by the good work of the Riverhead Fire Department. Now let's go to the next slide.
Okay.
Okay, then we go to the West Coast, and this pillar of the community on the left here. Each of these fires, I went back and just to see if there was any additional news on. They arraigned this guy again. He's got a long string of problems, and but the story is that he was trying to cover up theft of merchandise, shoplifting, and he set a little fire in the store. So the little fire kind of got out of hand. So. And he got pinched because on the way out, one of the employees grabbed him anyway. So he got pinched for shoplifting. But this fire had a very different outcome. Again, the fire is intentionally set on the inside of the building, right? And go to the next slide, Pete. We'll see.
All right.
Okay. Again, it starts. It's 5:30 in the afternoon. Everybody gets evacuated. There was issues, I think, with the alarms here. There was definitely issues with the sprinklers.
I was going to say, how
out of all of this is the most interesting one to me, because this building should have been completely sprinkled. I would assume that it is. If it's not, if anybody knows, let us know in the chat. I'd be real interested in hearing that. But anyway, go to the next slide, Pete. So over 100 firefighters from San Jose battled this thing. This video on the left is taken by a customer, right?
Just walking around the aisles.
Just walking around. I got to get my fertilizer. So anyway, you can see it takes off. Yeah, they had a big thing in the news out there in San Jose that there was so much smoke from actually all of these fires.
You can see it from space there.
You can see it from space, but
a quick question for you, Captain Murphy. You just mentioned that there's fertilizer there. In a fire like this, does fertilizer become combustible or explosive?
Yeah, sure it does. And in certain instances, I don't think too much that you're going to buy in Home Depot does. But when you get into commercial fertilizer, they use a lot of ammonium nitrate, and
that's what they make the bombs out of.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
They made Oklahoma out of, right? The Oklahoma bomb.
Right. And that's how they were able to get it, because they went to a place that sells, large quantities to farmers of fertilizer. That's why it's controlled.
The 93 World Trade Center bombing, the same thing.
Same thing.
Cap,
so except there, some guy that couldn't speak English walked in and said, "I'd like 2,000 pounds of ammonium."
Here you
nitrate,
go. Take 3,000.
Oh, sure. You got a credit card? Yeah, fill it up.
Oh my God.
Hey guys.
Nothing to see here.
I've been to a couple of, even in the city, we have Home Depots and stuff like that, obviously, but I've been to a couple of those, but it was always a little bullshit fire, right? That was underneath the shelving, and one of the sprinklers was hitting it, right? So it never got to the point. Is it possible, even with a sprinkler on, that if you had that the fire could get big enough that it would go to that? Like, have you ever heard or seen? I mean, I don't follow any of that stuff. I mean, is it still possible?
Happened. It's very rare,
right? Yeah, right.
And again, one of the things in big box stores and with rack storage, when they first came out, they weren't required to have sprinklers in
underneath.
The rack.
Right, exactly.
Right. Now you go into a Home Depot or a Lowe's today, and you look in the racks, and at the end of the rack, you see the piping going on.
Oh wow! I didn't even know that.
Well, because the fire would get too big. By the time it got to the sprinkler, it would be too far ahead. I can understand.
And this is kind of what I'm wondering about this fire is. Was this one of those legacy buildings that had just been there for 30 years or whatever? Grandfathered in and never had sprinklers installed in the racks, and that's how the sprinkler system was overcome. Or was the sprinkler system impaired, shut off in some way, or whatever? You know. Right. So I mean, just from a professional point of view, I'm interested in seeing that.
Also, was it? I mean, you have to assume it was designed properly, but each jurisdiction has different fire codes. So
that's correct.
You know. Was that, again, random thought. What's their SOP? Are they automatically hooking up to the sprinkler system to feed it? Because I would think that any substantial fire would overcome a sprinkler system if it's only operating on the the hydrant pressure, the main pressure.
Yeah, well, I think San Jose is a pretty large professional fire department, so again, I'm sure they have SOPs on that.
Again, this is not disparaging. We're talking. This is the random thoughts. This is what should be going through everybody's head. Are we augmenting the sprinkler? If we did, was the sprinkler like now? You got to say, well, look, here's a case where we lost the whole building. If we augmented the system and the system was designed properly, where was the screw up here? To me, it's got to be in the design.
Well, this fire happened right in the middle of the day, didn't it? In the morning?
No, so I think it was what time? It was
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock in the afternoon.
So it wasn't like after hours. This thing didn't have all night to start cooking. I mean, this thing. Yeah. Somebody saw it pretty quickly. So if the sprinklers were working, I'm sure somebody either would have saw it or wouldn't have got this far out of control if the sprinklers were working.
Right. Yeah. That's the thing. I'm just curious from a professional point of view as to what happened along those lines, and nothing's come out yet. So we'll see when the report comes out what they have to say about that. But again, nobody got killed, nobody got hurt. I mean, it's amazing. Everybody got out of this place. So it's overall very good job. And they had a problem with an exposure. It was an animal hospital, I believe. But again, I think what was it? Go one more slide, Pete. Go 2 more slides.
Wow, that's a good picture.
Yeah, that's the same. Yeah, go back to that. I mean, that's the if I could just find those light bulbs, I could get out of here.
Maybe get them for free. I don't know.
Yeah. No, they just pinched the guy going out with stuff.
Take your glove off for that one.
Yeah,
at that point,
that's a great point. That's a great point, Lou. Explain what you mean by that. Take your glove off.
Well, just because that everything is good, that's a high ceiling there. So
exactly.
Right. We discussed that like with the Macy's fire. Yeah. That's actually a great picture for anybody who doesn't how it's stratification. How you could have 1,000-degree heat 10 feet above your head, but you're walking under it. The only thing that would make that better is if you could actually, when the smoke, you start seeing the flame going through the smoke just before it gets ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. How big was this area, Cap? You said?
I don't know. There's a pretty good picture there. 2 slides back. I mean, it's your typical Home Depot. It's a large building,
I'm sure if you had the camera pointing up there, man, it would not be good.
Oh yeah, and that's the whole thing for especially for the young guys that might be watching this, and we're going back and forth, but. That's a very dangerous situation. That's again a situation that you don't deal with very often in your career. Is you can walk right in under this thing. You can literally walk right in under this thing, and it's all going on over your head. In other words, there may not be much fuel up there, but there's a lot of heat. Yep. And it gets to the point eventually, unless somebody gets that roof open or there's automatic hatches on the roof or something, it's eventually going to drop back down, sink back down, and now you're 100, 200 feet in.
And that happens fast when it does that too. It don't happen
if you're not going in with a hose line. If you're going in, searching or whatever, it's a good case for a search line.
Oh, you shouldn't be entering that building without a search line if there's really a fire in there. I mean, and even if there isn't, it's a good precaution, you know.
Yeah, it looked like there was all towel ladder. I didn't see one line stretched in the building in any of those pictures.
I don't know. You know, again, some of the function of that also is when does the news media arrive? You know,
right.
You know, how many of us have been to something and they didn't show up until, you know, it was basically coming down in the street. You know, so it depends on where it is. All right, where are we? Next slide, Pete. Okay. All right, the next fire again. That was an interesting fire as far as, you know, a large building, right? That's you know, you might get one or two of those in your career today, maybe a couple more, but not too many. That's a real large fire. Well, just when you think you can't top that, these guys out in Indiana pull up to this monster. All right. Walmart. It's a Walmart distribution center.
Holy shit!
Wow.
Now this
1,000,002 square feet.
That's 1,000,002. I thought the other one. Right, that's
1.2 million square feet.
I'm not sure but that might be dropping a second on arrival. I don't know.
Yeah, and it certainly did. Both Hank and I listened to the radio traffic, which I would definitely commend these guys. They had it together on the radio. They were punching all the checking all the boxes. They got in there initially. I mean, it didn't look like that then, but they got into their reported fire. They found it. They acted on it. They knocked it down.
Initially, 50 people unaccounted for that they had to, you know.
1,000 people working.
When
they pull up, 1,000 people in this place, 50 unaccounted for when they get there. Okay, so again, the place burnt to the ground eventually. But going back to what we just said a minute ago, nobody got killed. No firefighters got killed. They accounted for everybody that was in there. There are some issues with this fire, but again, we'll see what happens when the report comes out. But a very, very tough operation, you know. And what happens is, like we've talked about we have a couple of slides coming up in residential buildings, but sprinklers only protect the protected area. You know, in other words, especially in wood frame buildings, you know, that's there are voids where sprinklers aren't required or don't protect, and you got to be very careful with that because you can have fire running in those areas.
Well, I was gonna say that. I mean, when I look at that building, Cap, like I always had this weird. I guess it's not weird, but you know, it's a new building. It's got to be brand new, right? So I always had this feeling that, you know, I wasn't really ever going to get anything like that in those types of buildings. Even for us, when we went into those buildings, you know, I always had a false sense maybe that, you know, I didn't have to worry too much about things in there, you know?
Yeah, but we would go into what I keep bringing this place up. There's two buildings.
Star Corrugated.
Yeah, the Star Box Company.
Yeah,
I knew you were going to say that.
And Durafoam, right?
Thank God. Oh my God, the Durafoam. Thank God.
It never burned either.
Thank God. Thank God.
Thank God, because they had those big doors that would shut, right? The whole thing would fill up with foam from floor to ceiling.
Yep.
And in 90 seconds is some ridiculous thing, right? 2 minutes, whatever.
You know, everybody's got those buildings in their area. I mean, it's unusual for companies not to. But
or you can have
you know what? We don't listen.
Steinway Piano Company, right? Roof that was 100 years old. You know what I'm talking there, man.
Yeah, but you want to know something? The big cities don't have these buildings because they don't have the land available.
Right.
All of these buildings are going up in very rural areas, where there's guys are selling off their farms and developments are going in. Right. And I mean, I saw it when I was in North Carolina, an Amazon distribution center went up, and it was in a very rural area.
Yeah.
And these smaller departments are tasked with the fire protection of these buildings. So again, the random thoughts, if one of these is going up in my district, the first thing is, if you get any kind of substantial fire, you know, it's way past one department, you know. So if it's in your district, you're gonna have to get your adjoining districts in. You're gonna have to make friends with the management of these companies, which they should more than want you in there. Find out, you know, where all the hookups are for standpipes, for sprinkler systems. Are they divided into?
Oh boy.
Oh, no, he's coming back.
These buildings are so large that you could lose water pressure in the piping. So just like in Manhattan with these new high-rise going up,
he was on a roll.
You have it horizontally. So you really have to, become familiar with this type of building and know ahead of time, again, be proactive. You can always send the units home, but you're going to want to, once you have a confirmed, fire, smoke condition in these buildings, you're going to need people there right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It certainly seemed that at this fire, these companies were familiar with that, because the radio traffic indicated that each of these engines coming in was asking which particular fire department connection to pick up. And you could tell that they had drilled on it before, because they were all the chief was on it too. The problem here became, I just don't understand the layouts of this too. Like we were talking before the show, the area where they were initially fighting the fire was I think 3 or 4 stories. They were on the 3rd floor. So was this the entire thing 3 stories?
Right, or just an area?
I don't think so. I think it's compartmentalized. There are areas that are like floor to ceiling with conveyors and stuff.
Yeah.
Then they have other areas with offices and cubicles and locker rooms.
That's what I was going to say, Hank, too, is it reminded me of, like, we used to go on Coca-Cola all the time, right? And it was almost sterile, right? It was just, everything was stainless. It was all conveyor belts, like Coke bottles were flying past you doing 100 miles an hour, right? Like nonstop. And I'm sure, like, when these guys go into these Amazon places, or we had the FedEx place, it's just packages on these conveyor belts, and to try and get anywhere through any of that stuff is crazy as it is. You know what I mean? It's
we drove out to Indy for FDIC, Ruffy. How many do we see these going up?
My God! It's endless, like Hank said.
Endless.
It's everywhere.
They're going up. They're going up everywhere. These buildings.
You see that in business, Kev, right? I mean, businesses shop around to get the biggest concession from the local town as to taxes and everything else that they need to put one of these in, and that's how
I think these are going up even faster than the fire department. The companies can go out there and look at them. That's how fast these things are going up. They're all over the place.
Yeah,
and even smaller versions are going up in the city. Like actually, Squad 288 now is first due. They just put one up on Rush Street. That's going to be an Amazon.
Yeah.
They have them in Long Island City, right? They were going to do one in Long Island City.
Again, that's going to go in. It's going to go in some. If it doesn't go in Long Island City, it's going to go somewhere else, So they've got to keep up with the market.
Yep.
But again, what we're talking about here is a high risk incident with all of these types of buildings, not the kind of building you do most of your firefighting in, but and low frequency. You don't get many real fires in these things, and
wow,
it's just once it gets to a certain point, manual firefighting just is not going to put this out. But again, how you got to look at it. That's why.
Go back to that one picture there. Look at the metal. Look at the studs there.
That's just a collapse. It's total collapse.
There. Yeah, but you can kind of see it looks like a tilt up wall, right?
Yeah.
All the way down over where the trailer says Mart, right? The wall that's left, and then coming back, you can see the different levels. It looks like at least 3 levels of building there. So. Very daunting for any fire department at all. It's going to be
with 6 guys.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know what made this one even tougher? They said how many people were accounted for? 50.
50 on a rocket.
Yeah, that makes it even more hard. Because what do you do? Sit outside, wait for them to come out? You can go in there and if all people are out and accounted for, all right, you set up and you dump water on it. But if there's 50 people missing, somebody's got to go in and look for them, right?
Yeah, and everybody, they got everybody out, but again, the place is loaded, and once the fire took off, that was it. It was all over. And you'll see that when we talk about these residential frame buildings with lightweight construction, it's some of these problems are similar.
That's incredible.
It is, isn't it?
Shit. What is that, Hiroshima?
You can listen to the radio reports. They were available online because Hank told me about it. And there's a section in the radio report where this is bad. This is real bad. It goes from being I hate to, say routine, but it goes from being very calm and very under control. The incident commander does a great job. He's got all his ducks in a row, as far as I can tell by listening to the radio. And then all of a sudden, there's this curveball at it. It's like they're almost in mop-up phase. Okay, they've got the fire knocked down, at least as far as they think, and then a report going back to, we've mentioned this a bunch of times, what Chief Dunn used to always say, how the remote positions in the truck are so critically important. Now we're looking at the size of this thing. There's a guy or a team on the roof. Again, it seems like they're just in mop-up, like they're knocking this down. This is it. We're going to be taken up in a few minutes. And there's a radio report of there's fire through the roof on the other side of the building. That in this building would probably be about 500 feet away.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Fire through the roof. Because everything that we're assuming at this point just went out the window.
Right. Shit's on.
Shit hit the fan. And I really feel for the incident commander at this fire.
Well,
really feel for him.
Well, yeah, speaking of the incident commander, random thought. If I'm the chief in charge of this operation, knowing I'm going to be pulling up to this building, or chiefs, how do I know that people are accounted for? Because if I'm told people are unaccounted for, I'm going to supposedly be putting my troops in danger to go in and search for them. So I would ahead of time, I would want to get together with the Walmart management and say, what are your fire drill procedures? Does each manager and each department, do they have a place where they're meeting out in the parking lot and each manager knows who was there for the day? Because there's no way of one person knowing about 1,000 people who's there for that day or not.
Right.
So Walmart, I'm using Walmart in this case, but whoever it is, Amazon, they comes in because if I'm responding here to this building, I'm the chief. I may want to get these guys and say, what is your procedure? And if you don't have one, this is what we're going to do here. Because I'm the one sending my troops in.
Well, so in a building with this many people, they got to have some kind of fire.
No, they have to. Coca-Cola used to have it. They used to have the guys out all the time. They used to pull up there. All the people be outside. They couldn't wait to get outside. They got out of work.
Yeah, exactly. They were good for 20 minutes, a half an hour. No, but it's dead serious. We make all these assumptions. I look at this and I think of the World Trade Center, actually. You make all these assumptions like, when you go there on BI or you go there for an inspection or you're just walking through the place off duty, and you make these assumptions, well, the sprinklers will work. In the World Trade Center, the elevators will work, Yeah. And then all of a sudden, I keep saying that, the fire has to say, you turn the corner and you're confronted with something like this or what the guys had to face on 9/11, the assumption that, all right, I'll have an elevator to take me up 80.
I'll be able to talk to somebody on my radio.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the radios will work.
Right. Or maybe that the building won't fall.
Yeah, exactly.
Go up there and the building won't fall, right?
Yeah, right.
Because they told us so.
Yeah. And then the air was still good for a couple of months after.
Yeah. Right.
Going down a rabbit hole.
Yeah. Okay. Next slide. Okay, moving on from that. Again, just an awareness kind of thing that we, big fires, infrequent, high risk, low frequency. One of the things that both Hank and I worked in construction safety with buildings under construction, and one of the driving reasons why we both had a job was because of this fire on Liberty Street in Manhattan at the Deutsche Bank, the former Deutsche Bank, which was being demolished. So the city has an agency, or the city considers this all under the same kind of code: construction, demolition, and abatement. And the demolition and abatement was what was going on at the Deutsche Bank. It had been contaminated on 9/11. The building had collapsed into it. As you see in the middle picture, that's why I put it in there. It's a big chunk taken out of it. They found a lot of remains in there. There was a lot of hazmat in there, a lot of dust. So it was deemed too hazardous to repair, and they decided to take it down.
And it was asbestos in the original construction.
Right, with most buildings, right? It had, I believe it was originally in the 40s. It was like a 40-something story building, and it was down to around the 20s somewhere when the fire occurred. The fire occurred because of smoking. somebody was smoking inside and it started a fire. They're very strict about smoking on construction sites. Hank can tell you, the whole thing is very, very strict because of incidents like this. And it's not just this fire, many fires, But anyway, we lost 2 firefighters, a firefighter from Engine 24 and a firefighter from 5 Truck were killed at this fire. And they were lost in maze-like conditions because of the abatement. And the abatement is the removal of the hazardous substances. So the hazardous substances, like Hank said, was asbestos. But the problem is that to do the abatement, they create this warren of plywood enclosures that are temporary, basically, right. and they cut the area off so that they can work in an enclosed area and mitigate it, and then it's temporary, and then they take it out. And in this case, it's not a renovation or anything. Then it gets demolished. That floor gets demolished,
Right.
But
the stairwells get closed.
That's what I was going to say. The stairways where the plywood was, right?
As they do it floor by floor.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they use these reverse air machines. They call it like scrubbers that as they're removing the asbestos, it becomes friable, airborne. And these air machines suck the air in, and they have these specialized filters to, trap the asbestos. But that also affects how your fire travels now, because now you have air being sucked in different directions. So all of these things affected that whole fire that day and caused 2 deaths.
Yeah, and we were lucky that,
I was just gonna say that, Cap.
in addition to Bob Bedia and Joe Garofalo, that we didn't lose, 10 other guys, 12 other guys.
Oh, yeah.
I know I heard guys in Rescue 1 that I knew that were at this fire. They were just like, we were very lucky. We were very
one
lucky.
Of the scariest jobs, guys I talked to said this is one of the scariest jobs they've ever been to. Just the way, anything that you thought, like you said, Cap, guys walk down the stairs, all of a sudden there's a plywood floor there. You can't go down anymore.
Can't get through it.
Then you're walking through plastic because they have these clean areas, cold, cool areas, hot, whatever it was for the abatements. So now it's just this maze of plastic.
Yeah.
And,
and heat and smoke.
Yeah, on top of all that,
I think some of the guys were hanging out on the scaffolding, right?
Yeah, because that was one of the few ways you could reliably go from floor to floor.
Yeah,
if you think about it,
20 stories up.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
And again, we said this before. We tend to beat ourselves up over the tactics. Even the last couple of fires we just talked about before this, which this is a complete, very difficult, complex job here, but. We tend to beat ourselves up over the tactics and stuff, but we're doomed from the beginning at this because the standpipe is never going to work because it's been cut in the basement.
Oh, right. Yes, it was cut.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how that, the fact that we had jobs afterwards with this came about, because you were on the hook basically as a fire safety manager but they put great systems in to make sure that those standpipes were intact. They put an air pressurization system in, just the compressor that's running, but you just look at the pressure gauge, it's holding pressure, it's going to hold water. If it's holding air pressure, it's going to hold water,
And that had to be checked every day.
Every day.
And it had to be tested every week by us. Right. We had to put it in alarm mode. We had to lower the pressure manually.
Yep.
When the pressure hit 15 PSI, it set off the alarms.
Yep.
But again, all of these codes were all written in blood. The Bob brothers' blood here.
Joe and Bob, it was written in their blood.
Right. Now, Hank, was that for buildings going up and coming down? So any building going up or coming down, those?
Yes. Well, anything over 75 feet going up, and it's like 250,000 square feet. It's been a while with the code, but or any building that's coming down of any height, the standpipe has to. Yes, it's the same thing. It has to be pressurized, and it has to be maintained to within the floor below the demolition floor, so you can still hook up. Yeah. And when it's on its way up, it has to be within 2 floors of the top floor that's been poured.
Right. And who would test that every day? The fire safety guy, or who?
Yeah.
Fire safety
manager. Yep.
Yeah. You go in every morning. You'd make sure. Well, if it wasn't working, the alarm had to be going off. Yeah. So it was, unless somebody
or it was completely shut down. That happened on one job where I walked in. And my first day, I walk in and it's completely off. I'm like,
wow.
Oh.
Now, what do you do with that? Who do you call? Like, yo, dude.
Who I call? I sent it right. I called the site safety manager, then the superintendent, and they come over and they look, well, we don't, why? And I'm not talking to them like, how do I fix this? I'm talking to them like, why isn't this working?
Right. And they go like, I don't know, Tim. Maybe
I don't know. This is the first we're hearing about it.
Right.
Yeah.
But you know what? Honestly, it was good that this job made it possible for retired guys to continue working, to continue helping.
Yeah, it's something you're going to make a difference in. You know what I'm saying?
Right. But you were there every day thinking about the brothers that had to respond here at 3 a.m.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and the construction companies knew that. This fire, I mean, there was people that could have went to jail for this. And they didn't. There was substantial, financial, stuff. But I mean, that doesn't bring people back to life.
No.
But by having retired firemen in these positions, the construction companies knew that, okay, we mean business. And the other thing was you actually got to form friendships. And once these supervisors got to talk to you, you could bring to light a lot of things that they never realized because they never fought a fire. So it was, it kind of worked out. But
most of the people I worked with, I had a similar experience with Hank. Most of them were very professional. Most of them listened. Most of them were good. And like every other thing in life, once they got to know you, that you weren't just going to be a pain in the ass to them, that they, that you would work with them, things got done. But again, they also don't want to be on the hook for any of this stuff either.
Right. And I mean, every day when they're putting the building up, at least once a week, the standpipe has to be jumped to get to the next floor or two. So in order to do that, the system has to be shut down. So when that system gets shut down, as the fire safety manager, you have to call the dispatcher, let them know that the system's been shut down and approximately how much time it's going to be shut down. Because if it's going to be for too long, then the company has to start providing fire guards for every 5 floors, depending on the square footage. So there are a lot of things that are put in place that if they're being followed, makes these buildings a lot more fire safe. Are they 100%? No, because there's always things going on. It's an ever-changing scenario every day.
Yeah, and one of the
slide 22 up. I see that those are the brothers there.
Yeah.
So again, we lost 2 men on that day. Nothing that we're going to say here is going to mitigate that or make that better for anybody, but it is some consolation that some positive change came out of it. It should never have happened. What happened never should have happened, but at least things are being done a little better and a little smarter because after this fire,
Right.
And the attack on 9/11 actually claimed these 2 lives because that attack damaged Deutsche Bank to the point where it had to be taken down.
Right.
And it cost these 2 brothers their lives.
Yep. It's still killing people today. So it's just, it's just one
The
of
gift
those
that
things.
keeps on giving.
Yeah,
It is.
exactly.
It really is.
All right, Pete, go to the next slide.
10-4.
That's the pipe that was cut in the basement. Just so and there was a whole thing. I don't want to get into it at all. There was a whole thing about inspections, lack of inspections, because it was a hazmat. So there was a lot to that. There's a pretty good book on it. It's called The Fix Is In. If you're interested in reading about it, about the Lower Manhattan Development Authority and everybody's role in this whole thing. Next slide.
It was written by Graffinino's father.
Right.
So
That's right.
It's pretty informative.
Yeah. And there was plenty of stuff on the books, before this that should have prevented it. There's other standards. There's OSHA. There's NFPA had regulations that should have been followed too.
But this again, not to belabor it, but here with existing codes, with people that were there supposedly enforcing those codes, and again, look what happened. One thing, then it was Murphy's rule.
Murphy's law.
One thing didn't work, and then it led to the next, and then we had deaths and serious injuries.
Yeah, in aviation, when they investigate an accident, a lot of times they refer to it as a cascading series of events. One little thing followed by another little thing by another little thing, each of which individually would not have caused the result, but put together one after the other causes that. Another point for a lot of the guys that might be watching this, both inside the FDNY and outside, is to remember that in buildings under construction, a lot of your systems aren't in place. Buildings going up, that's all following it. And what we're talking about here with these standpipes, these are different from the standpipes that when the building is completed, the way they behave. When the building is done, the standpipe is wet. Okay, because the building, when it's coming up, it doesn't have heat. In this area of the country, it has to be dry, because you can't have water. If it's going to freeze, it'll blow the pipe out, right? So the building comes up, the standpipe is intact, but it's dry following it up, all right? And then once the building gets enclosed, they get temporary heat in, they can put water in the standpipe. But initially, none of these buildings can have wet standpipes because of the weather. In the summer you could have it, but the first cold night. So they're always dry, and now they're always air pressurized. If they fall into the parameters that Hank explained a few minutes ago.
The code says, even if it's wintertime, the first 75 feet, once it's up, how do they test it? Well, they pump air, but they pump it in to let's say 300 PSI. Then after that, it's every 100 feet. That's New York City. So, these systems, you could have 200-300 feet going up that's actually never seen water in it, which, again, even though it's been tested, could be a problem, and we'll get into that in a couple of slides.
Yeah, next slide, Pete.
So the bottom line is you got to feed that standpipe.
Yeah.
You got to what?
Feed that standpipe.
Right.
Yeah, and it takes a while to fill that standpipe.
Sure. Yeah.
Hank did a test at one of the buildings that he was working at. We had a fire where I was working in the tallest building in the city at the time, and it took, in a dry standpipe, it took almost 20 minutes to.
Holy shit! Really?
Well, because you can't pull it to the hammers of hell, because if you do, when it's dry, every turn you're going to get a warmer hammer, and you're going to blow the standpipe apart.
Right.
So you have to fill that standpipe up at almost idle speed. So that water has to go in slowly. Then once it hits the top, then you can start increasing pressure.
Yeah, you fill in the column first, and it takes a while.
Wow, that 20 minutes is a long time, to deal with water.
Yeah. But you look at these buildings now, they're going up. I mean, the building that Hank was at was 1,000 feet. The World Trade Center is 1,700, over 1,700 feet. There's towers going up around Central Park in the 1,200s, So, it's becoming the new normal. It's not common. It'll never be common. But places are getting high rises that never would have had high rises before. You look at downtown Brooklyn. There's a super tall in downtown Brooklyn that's over 1,000 feet tall. There's multiple buildings in the 40s.
Long Island City.
I was just going to say Long Island City, which was all open and nothing. All high rises now.
Yeah. So those companies all have to be proficient at this, just as they do in Manhattan. You don't get a lot of fires in these buildings, but you have to be ready to go. My son works in South Jamaica. They, mostly private dwellings and commercial buildings, right? But now they're building these high-rise hotels all around Jamaica Station. Flushing, Queens, same thing, So it's, nobody's doing a lot of standpipe work, but for actual fires, but you got to be proficient at it,
I'm not a mathematician, but like you said, well, how long it takes. Well, think about hydraulics. You're filling up a 6-inch standpipe, and that branches off to maybe 4-inch. And think about the amount of feet of pipe that you're filling up. You could be 2,000 or 3,000 gallons that you got to fill up at idle speed before you can, when these systems are dry. You're not getting water for a while.
Yeah. So anyway, we're going to switch gears for a second and going from real big buildings to, they're still big, but now they're made out of wood. All right. You see all these condos and condominiums and townhouses that are going up everywhere. This is one from, I forget what year this, like 2015, Edgewater, New Jersey. This is a fully occupied building and burnt to the ground. The story here is is that workers, plumbers were sweating pipes on a bitter cold night. This is right on the Hudson River across from New York, and lit a fire, got a fire going by mistake in the truss loft, the area between floors, all right, between the, let's say, the first and second floor. Okay. The thing is, there's no sprinkler protection in those areas, in any of them. There's virtually, hardly any codes require sprinkling those spaces. And the problem is there's also not much compartmentation in those codes. I think that's starting to change now. But at the time of this, there's very little compartmentation. So what you have is you have a fire that starts in one of these spaces. They try to put it out. They can't put it out. And they're fighting it for a while. And then by the time they leave, it's already spread quite a bit. And the fire department is, again, behind the 8 ball the moment they pull up. The fire is all over the place. Again, fully occupied. The other buildings we're going to talk about in a second are under construction. This is fully occupied. Over 500 people left homeless from this fire. And this is a very nice upscale, development, So
I love plumbers, Cap.
Yeah. Listen, most guys do a great job. It just takes one guy,
That's
every trade has got him.
Yeah.
Every trade is.
I don't know who's better, roofers or plumbers.
Yeah, I like when they sweat the pipe and they go to lunch and they come back.
Yeah, it's always
Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
It's always the same thing. I've been doing this a number of years.
Right. Yeah,
it's never happened before.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, next slide, Pete.
All right.
But these buildings, these truss buildings, these wood frame buildings, the pedestal and podium buildings that they call now, where the first floor is concrete, could be stores, it could be parking garage, and then above it, it's supposedly isolated, no penetrations, and then it's a lumber yard above. Generally, the stairs are enclosed in either cinder block or gypsum board enclosures. But these things are modern day nightmares because they're going up all around by me, all over the place in my area on Long Island. And again, when everything works, it's great. But we're showing part of this random thoughts thing is we're showing incident after incident after incident where things didn't work.
Yeah.
It didn't work. You designed it to work this way and it didn't work.
I want to know why that guy's pointing away from the fire. Obviously,
yeah.
Because what you can't see is there's like 17 of them burning on the other side of the picture.
Probably.
Yeah, this was in 2017. This is after Edgewater. This is a building under construction, if I'm not mistaken. And again, Chief Dunn, I have a slide. Chief Dunn talks about the gutted phase, the open frame phase, the closed frame phase, and the closed phase, and then finished. Right, I think that's the way he describes these kind of buildings. We had a big fire in Douglaston in the 80s, I believe, and this was a kind of a wind-driven fire in buildings that were not completed but almost done, and it just went right through the whole thing.
It's gone.
Yeah, but think about a building like that, and the buildings you're going to see in a minute. The walls aren't up, maybe they're roughed out. Maybe they are in some areas and not in other areas, but alarms aren't in, fire protection systems aren't in. So if this thing is sprinkled, sprinklers aren't in or aren't functioning yet. They're not serviceable yet.
The wind whipping through it.
There's no compartmentation yet. There's a ton of material to burn. So it's a nightmare, and there's a load of hazards, which we're going to talk about at the end on construction sites. But that can cause a fire, it can be or create big problems for us when we get there. But this is a good example. So go to the next slide, Pete.
You got it. And stand by. Oh.
It's the same fire from a different angle. Okay.
Jeez, man.
Yeah. Next slide. So again, you get these frame buildings. This is what I'm talking about when I say open frame. The studs are up, the walls are up, but now the plumbers got to come in. The electricians have to come in. They have to do their job. Everything in construction is timed, right? So
that's how I stack the wood when I light my wood burner, just like that.
Right.
It goes right up.
Yeah.
It goes right up.
Somebody in the chat said that's the fully involved phase.
Yeah,
I think it was perpetuity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Next slide, Pete.
You got it.
This is a pedestal or a podium building. Different areas of the country have different term for the same thing. But again, it's a wood frame building. It's a wood frame building with a masonry first floor. Sometimes a masonry, a basement. Parking garages, commercial buildings, commercial stores on the first floor. Very often are the occupancies, but residential above. So again, a huge lumber yard. And look at it in this stage of construction.
Oh my God!
Those top two, yeah, exactly. I go by these things when I drive by them. I just go, wow! I say to my wife all the time, what a lumber yard,
Yeah.
Just like.
And those are all over the island. Those are going up all over the place.
They're going
all
up
over the country,
everywhere.
all over.
So, but again, going back to even like the commercial buildings that we were talking about before, this is going to challenge any fire. This is going to be a lot of fire on arrival, or it's going to be getting there. Like maybe you have a shot. That's tough, man, because this thing is expanding, and you better be getting some big water up there fast. So it's so you need to plan that, and it's only for a select period of time. In other words, these things go up, and depending on the size of the building, it may be in this stage for a month, 2 months, 3 months, depending on the size of the building.
What are the stairs in these, Cap? What are they?
A lot. Most of the ones in our area that I see have masonry enclosed stairs,
right.
or again fire-resistant stairway enclosures. Right. Or just some board.
Right. The stairs are one of the first things that go in. They'll put
Yep.
There'll be poured stairs with cinder blocks because that's the fireproofing for you to come down those stairs.
Right.
Yep.
So you'll see them going up before anything else. To me, the biggest thought here is when they're on the parts when guys are working, there's the life hazard is at that point, fire department. I dread these buildings more once they're occupied because you get a good job, like you say, in a plenum area or something, fire is spreading rapidly. We got to go in because there's life hazard in there. We got to make searches knowing that time is of the essence because how long before this thing collapses?
Yeah, and these you don't give a shit. You just dump water on them. Who cares? Nobody's in there, right? In this phase anyway.
Right. That's the point. The only people that might be in there would be the construction crew if it's during hours.
Right.
I mean, we kind of assume that a lot of the fires we get are during non-construction hours. But I think we got a slide coming up of one down in Texas where everybody's seen it. A guy gets picked off with an aerial ladder.
I saw that.
I saw that.
Yeah,
that's nice. Is that frowned upon right there?
What? Well,
my God.
the picture on the left I took in 176's area. That was a few blocks from the Firehouse. They were putting up an entire street of these, and you got, and that's the last one out of a row of about 10 or 15.
That's incredible.
And the bearing wall on the end wall.
What the hell were those guys doing over there?
C joist. It's all legal. We looked into it. We had building. We had building.
Wow,
we had
that
building.
Ain't gonna last
No.
The one on the left is legal.
Picture on the left is legal. Just so I'm talking about the picture on the left.
Even that. How long will that last in a fire?
Not long. No, nobody realizes how those C joists behave in a fire. Brian Hickey took a great picture. I don't have it in this presentation of photographs in Sunset Park that we used in that laptop drill that we did. And so I sent him down there. Brian went down and took photographs of that. It was a second alarm. And he came back. He goes, "Look at how this behaved, Murph." And I'm looking at it. I'm going, it was like spaghetti. And these were big C joists, like 2x10s, or 2x12s. But the whole bearing wall here is on that. And I have it a couple of slides up. There's the middle of the picture on the left. They ran a ventilation, what do you call it? Ventilation hose, duct through it. And they cut the hole out in the center. That's legal to do. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. When I saw it for the first time, I'm like, what are you kidding me? This thing's going to come down like this,
Yeah.
But they showed us the instructions. We had it vetted through buildings. And Hank and I looked at it years later.
Coombs, you remember that building that was right on the corner of Hamilton and LIE? That brick building that they put up. This is how the construction was. It was just like this. It had the metal studs on the outside, and then they put the brick like veneer on the outside.
Yeah. You don't know what. Once they button it up, you don't even know.
That's the thing. If you don't get in there and look at it before they button up, shame on you, bro. You know what I mean?
Exactly. The toughest things are like private dwellings that go up on side streets and stuff, because people get them renovated and they'll put truss or plywood eye joists or everything. And again, we talked about in one of the previous presentations, this stuff now, they've done some significant testing on this. This stuff comes down, and I think unprotected in 6 minutes. So, again, on a first floor to the top floor, it's pretty much all going to be protected. So you're okay. But where will you see it unprotected? An unfinished basement.
Basement, yep.
So you're walking in on the first floor, the fire started in the oil burner in the basement, and this thing is going in 6 minutes. How long did it take you to get there? So
that was all the Nehemiah houses. All of them had the unprotected seat joists.
Yep, and we didn't have decent testing on that. We only got that, I don't know, in 2014, 2016, something like that. But it's out there. We know this stuff. And what gets me is this stuff fails faster than truss. Which I was very surprised at. So. But go back to the previous slide, Pete, that we just came from for a second.
Not this one, but
that's the guy. That's the one from Houston.
Yeah,
where they picked the guy off. You can see him in that picture on one landing down. He actually hung and went, and they got him with the aerial, which was good. But the point is that that's a real good picture when you see the video of this, of how dangerous that open frame stage of construction is that Chief Dunn has been talking about for 30, 40 years.
Hey guys, who's got some TV going on in the background or something like that?
Oh, that could be me. Hold on, let me yell at my son.
Yep, I hear it.
What's he watching?
Probably YouTube. And he watch everything on YouTube now. Your grandkids probably already watching YouTube.
Turn off Judge Judy.
Oh, there he goes. He muted it. There he goes.
All right, better?
Yeah.
All right.
I think so.
Just go one up, Pete. One back, just back, because we were going to talk about that for a second.
This one here.
Yeah, that's it. So now the photograph on the right.
Wow.
I had just seen this online. I forget what one of the fire department Facebook pages, but whoever grabbed this. I mean, this just goes to show you what's out there. Most guys in the trades, I find are pretty conscientious. This is absolutely disgraceful. I mean, you look at this; it's just unbelievable. But I think
that's gonna happen more as in a renovation stage, because these plywood eye joists are being used more and more in construction, and whether it's a multiple dwelling or even a private dwelling. Now somebody comes in, they're renovating their bathroom, they call the plumber in, where they're opening up the ceiling down below. Well, this guy hacked to put the PVC waistline. He not only hacked through the web, he took the whole top cord off. So basically, that I-beam.
Let me cut an 8-foot piece out for a full.
There's no structural integrity there. So now you got at least a 32-inch span unsupported. You put a little fire in there at some point, you could have a localized collapse, if you're standing underneath it.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. I don't remember where I got this picture from, but whoever took it, thank you. And whoever posted it, whatever site that was, thank you also, because, guys need to see. It's not that
uncommon.
Yeah, it isn't. And guys need to see what's out there. It really is.
Incredible.
All right, Pete, go back like 3 or 4 slides. Go ahead and we'll try to catch up here.
Back or ahead? Sorry.
Ahead. I'm sorry.
Roger that. So this would be the next one.
So this is what Chief Dunn is talking about in buildings under construction: the gutted phase, the open frame phase, the closed frame, and the finished phase. Obviously, the open framing phase is like you see here is the most serious. And again, construction sites are always changing. They're dynamic. The first floor could be finished. The second floor could be closed because the building is going from the bottom to the top. And again, so on. So you can have different conditions in different areas of the same construction site.
For you two guys, like when the buildings are going up like this and it's all wood frame like that, do they have like fire? Are they set up for a fire like those guys? Do they have something? There's nothing that's no. They're not thinking any of that.
Remember, we weren't in buildings like this going up. We were going up, in 1,500-foot poured concrete buildings.
Yeah. It wasn't really that much. I was in a couple of renovations, but again, there's a lot of fire protection that's built in. A lot of extinguishers and stuff, and there's fire guards. But again, you're depending on some guy making minimum wage, making rounds in the middle of the night. It happens, and then sometimes it doesn't happen.
Right. Right. If he's making the rounds.
Yeah, I was on a site next to a site that had a fire in the 70s that was never detected. The fire burnt through a bunch of construction shanties, and because it was a foggy night when the fire occurred, it was never seen. It's a reinforced concrete building, so the shanties just burnt up, and that was the end of it. It never went anywhere else, you know. But where were the guys that were supposed to be walking this building? They should have been walked that floor like 4 or 5 times during the weekend, you know.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Where is this picture from? Ukraine? Where is this one?
I don't know. That might be also from Houston. I'm not 100% sure.
Holy shit, that thing is going.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, yeah, you can't put this out. I mean, this is going to burn to the ground.
You got to let that thing burn out, man.
As Tom Brennan used to say, for a fire like this, thank God for streets. Because that's the only thing keeping it from going any further, you know?
And you hope you have good brand patrol.
Yeah.
As Joe Bizell used to say, we didn't do good here.
No.
All right, next slide, Pete.
You got it. Coming up.
All right, so fire protection systems, the things that we count on. When the building's finished, you'll have this. But until the building is finished, these things are not tested and they're not up. Right. They're probably not working, you know. So they're impaired. They're not completed. In some cases, they like one of the buildings Hank was working in. The systems will be rising with the building, you know, and certain floors will be finished, signed off on. That's happening in New York all the time. So these ultra tall buildings, or even just a regular high rise, is coming up, and the bottom floors might be occupied, and the middle floors are getting ready to go for TCO, but the top floors are still being built. That's happening in one building. That happens all the time.
Right.
You mean they can occupy the lower floors before the upper floors are completed?
Yep.
Even if the standpipe is not operational?
Well, it'll be operating.
Right. When we get to the slide, I can explain that to you. I mean, this picture here, it's 2 things. Again, just to make the
Coobs, I still hear what's going on in the background, by the way.
You do? God bless you. Hold on. Let me go yell.
All right. I'm going to continue.
He was going to continue.
Are open. Like these OS and Y valves, you should be able to see the stem out. Okay. You know, you see the yellow handle with the stem coming out of it. If that stem is out, it means the gate's open and you got water flowing. And in New York, you're required to have them chained and locked. Okay. So that's how you know that they're maintained in the open position. And if work has to be done, it has to be called into the dispatcher, and then
so all of these things need to be
right. Now, Dennis, you can explain that standpipe cabinet in the next picture, which is
this is the luxury penthouse of probably one of the more expensive apartments.
Go back to where you were, Pete.
I see.
All right, so you see that hose cabinet there with the one valve in it, right? It's pretty simple. The problem with that is the way the valve is configured. The bottom of the hose cabinet is too close. It's very hard to get a line on there, a hose line on there. This is another good reason to carry a elbow in your hose, your standpipe kit, I should say. All right, so it gives you that little bit of an edge. All this would have been is for the fitter just to key this outlet, turn it like 15 degrees towards us, you know, and it would have eliminated that. But these are the kind of things you see all the time. We used to see it all the time in certain buildings we were working in, without mentioning any names. But you know, where you have, and you'll have hose cabinets in areas that are far enough away from the staircase or in an odd area that's hard to get to. They may be required to install a hose cabinet. That Walmart distribution center that we looked at before, I'm sure that was loaded with hose cabinets because of the distances from the street going in and the distances from the staircases. I'm sure that there were hose cabinets or standpipe, you know, vertical standpipe outlets on every floor all over the place in that thing, because so you don't only see it in vertical buildings, you see it in large horizontal buildings. You'll see them in sports stadiums and arenas. You'll see them in large department stores, things like that. So, but one of the things, if you're walking in as an inspecting company you might want to check to see if you can hook up to them efficiently. All right, that's something out of the box before you ever have to work in there. You might want to know that, you know. Right. And there may be some that are good, and you know there may be a mix of things. They may not. They're not all like this in this building. There's only a couple that'll have a problem like this. The rest are all fine. But anytime you see that where there's a close clearance between the bottom of the outlet, between the standpipe outlet and the bottom of the hose cabinet, you got to check that. And again, one of the things that can help you mitigate that without getting an excessive kink in there is to have an elbow in your standpipe kit.
I like it.
Next slide.
All right.
Okay. So going back to construction and buildings under construction, some of the things that were also learned and codes was that any type, it used to be where they would, the construction trades would keep whatever flammable gases they need. They would keep them chained up next to their shanties on whatever floor their shanties were on during that time. If it was on the 30th floor, they would be chained up there. And now you'd have to deal with these flammable gases, you know, acetylene or other types of flammable gases, compressed gases. If a fire broke out on that floor, that was yet another hazard that had to be mitigated. So what happened was that, all right, now all flammable gases, compressed gases, and liquid gases have to be kept on the first floor in approved cabinets, have to be permitted. And so that made it easier to keep control of everything. And they had to be, you know, we had, you know, big extinguishers, you know, dry chem extinguishers every certain amount of square footage. But what happens is human nature, guys, they're like, well, I don't feel like, you know, bringing I got a little, you know, an acetylene B bottle. I don't feel like bringing it down. I'm just going to lock it up in my job box. So that's what this one plumber decided to do. He was going to
love them plumbers.
Again, we're not talking about a huge bottle. I just want to show the guys out there the impact when you think about, well, what could this really do? We're talking about a B bottle, which is not, you know, you see these little gray bottles, they're acetylene, and the plumbers use them just, you know, with the hand torch to sweat the pipes. Well, this guy put his B tank inside his job box. Now, if you're not familiar with these job boxes, these are a very heavy gauge steel box, so you know they can't be broken into or cut into. And lo and behold, well, the packing nut on the, I guess on the top of the bottle wasn't tight, and it was leaking acetylene. So it leaked, and it filled up his box. So he comes in the next morning. Now the box is, you know, again, this is in an unfinished stage. There's no electric in there. It was dark in the morning. So he walks in, he gets up to the box. He has a combination lock. So he takes his lighter out and he lights the lights.
Oh, shit. I was going to say, with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth.
He does, boom, this box explodes. Now, luckily, this guy didn't die. It blew him through the wall, through the, you know, into the next room. And he ended up in the hospital with some broken bones and stuff. But you look at what, I mean, that box, like I say, if you ever get the chance to see the structural integrity of that, you look what it did to that box. And
it made it look like canvas or like a.
Yeah, I mean, so these are all the things that as firefighters, you know, we go into fires where these things are being stored. Now, generally, they have pressure relief valves that are supposed to let go. You know, in this case, the bottle leaked, so you had acetylene now all over. It was like the perfect storm. But you know, if that pressure relief valve doesn't go, like in a propane tank, I mean, you'll see flames shooting out, but it keeps that tank from blevying and exploding. If that's clogged, once that boiling liquid inside reaches, you know, enough of a vapor point, it'll explode. And you know, a 25 pound like a barbecue, that'll take down a single family house. So you know, these are the things that we're dealing with on day in and day out.
He's lucky he ain't dead, bro. He won't do that again. I can tell you that.
I mean, and this was in a building right across the street from where I was. Where I remember it was in the morning. It happened right at the start of the day, you know, the work day. Because you know, I heard, you know, the fire department, FDNY was responding in. The cops came. a bomb squad unit truck came.
I'm sure they had to think that was a bomb or something.
Yeah, it was crazy, but that's what it turned out to be, one of those little acetylene tanks. And I'm saying that guy's lucky he's alive.
You ain't kidding, man.
You know, when I first, like what Hank just said a minute ago about, you look at this tank, how bad could it be? We all have that attitude when we first see them, but you know, with flammable gases, there's going to be an issue with that. I mean, I remember when I first started working, doing this, I was working with two guys, Brian Kelty, who worked with Hank also, and from 44 Engine, and Chris O'Donnell. And these guys were crazy about that. And I couldn't understand when I first started why they were so heavy into this. But then you see what happens, and this happens repeatedly. It's the same accidents that happen over and over again. And they used to say that there's like we used to say in WMYF articles, Brian used to say that there's no new lessons learned here, because we all knew that this can't happen, and that if it does happen, this is going to be the outcome, and it's the same thing over. Like when Hank was just saying that, it's the same thing over and over again. It's the same thing at every construction site. You have the same kind of problems, maybe to different levels. Most, like we've said before, most of the guys do the right thing, but you always have a few problem children.
It's laziness and complicity. You're being complicit and stuff. Complacent rather.
Yeah.
And that's what it leads to.
Without a doubt. Next slide, Pete.
Hank, nothing's wrong with filling up a box, because I love filling up a box. There's nothing wrong with that. Just gotta throw a little bit in there. Come on.
Yeah. I'm sure that doesn't happen too often with you.
Hey! Good for you, Hank. Good for you, Hank.
Good for you. This is the kitchen table.
I rest my case, Ron.
Yeah.
Right. He can't hit the bottom of the tuna can, but he can blow up the sides.
So a couple of the other things. Again, these are random thoughts. We're talking about construction site fires. This could happen in any city, anywhere where you have a building going up and there's construction shanties. The picture on the left, that was an electrician shanty and it was a fairly large shanty where they had tons of stuff. They bring all the stuff in, the light fixtures and BX and everything that's going to be going up in that building. Well, what happened here was, in that box they were storing batteries for emergency lighting, and the batteries weren't covered, so the terminals were exposed. And I guess one of the guys, being lazy, was moving stuff around. He took a
piece of wire,
a roll of BX, which is metal jacketed, and he threw it on top. So, and then he left. And next thing you know, that metal now, is touching the positive and the negative. It gets red hot. It's leaning up against the plywood, and boom, the next thing you know, you got a shanty fire going. I happened to be working when this happened. I'm on one of the upper floors, and I hear him screaming to me on the radio, "Get down here, get down here." So, as I'm going down in the hoist, the French fry basket on the side of the bed, I can smell smoke. And I'm like, all right, so there's a fire somewhere. I'm gonna say, all right, somebody called 911 yet and let them know what's going on, And I come down, and sure enough, I come off the hoist and I see there's smoke pouring out of this shanty. And I'm like, all right, well, it's in the shanty, and I see that there's the extinguisher stand, but the extinguisher's missing. I figure, all right, somebody tried to put it out. Well, I figure, all right, the brothers are on their way. But next thing I hear coughing. Somebody's coughing in there. I'm like, what? So, of course, now I grab another extinguisher, go in. There was one guy who was in there trying to put it out with this big dry chem. So now
Pete.
Of course, I'm in there. I'm like, all right, well, so I see fire. I hit it with the other can. We put it out. I tell this guy to get out, and boom. So the thing here is, it happened during the day. We were lucky. If it happened during the evening, because this is at these construction sites, you have shanty town. It's not just one shanty. You have a bunch of shanties next to each other, and they all have flammable. They're all wood. Although in New York, they're supposed to be fireproof now, but on the outside, so they don't spread. But again, it sounds good.
Hey, Hank, just explain to them what a shanty is, just so they know.
Okay, a shanty is basically your little. It's like a trailer. If you were living in a trailer, it's your trailer that's built inside the building, because you can't expect that everything that's coming in is worth thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. So if everything was left lying on the floor, guess what? There'd be stuff missing every day. So the shanty is where each trade, whether it's carpentry, electrician, plumbing, they have shanties that they build, and they store all their materials in there. And as this materials get depleted, they order more materials. And in a high rise, as the buildings go up, they may have numerous shanties. You know, the GC, the general contractor, will let them know, okay, what the shanty floors are. Or you can build your shanties on 1 and on 27. You know, so you'll encounter these things all the way up in a high rise.
So it's like a shed. Basically,
right now in New York, again, I can only give you New York. They're supposed to have we make them put up shanty extinguishers, which is basically one of the large dry chems with a sprinkler head on it. You know, and again, they have to be checked, but sometimes they're not big enough to cover these shanties. You know, a fire gets going, and before it hits the head, you know, you got a substantial fire going. So. Again, I bring this up because if you're the guys responding at 3 o'clock in the morning, you could have shanty fire, you know, and they're generally a maze inside. So you got to be careful.
I wanted to throw in a little random thought here while I was thinking about this, because I have thought about this.
Oh, wow. There you go.
So you were talking about the batteries.
How many muffins would it take to stop a?
I have thought about what you said with the battery and then throwing the wire on there. Like, I make sure my wife doesn't throw batteries that are going dead, right? So just because the battery doesn't have enough to juice something, right? Whatever it is, a kid's toy, people throw it in the garbage.
I thought I was the only one that did that.
I was saying to myself, how that doesn't happen more often, that we get a fire coming from a disposed battery or two that people could throw out,
especially with 9 volts and stuff. Like whenever I throw a 9 volt out, I tape over the 9 volts just to make sure that they're not making contact with anything,
or in a drawer or whatever.
Yeah, that's what I do. I put a piece of tape over.
I was going to say, we think that way because we're firefighters, except Pete just threw the wrench in there, but he hangs around firefighters enough, so he gets it. You know, we tend to do safe stuff like that. You know, people like, why would you be doing that? It's because you know what? We know what happens. We've been on the other end of it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
I don't know how often that does happen.
Here's a random thought for you, Ruffy. If a shanty is where you store tools, why do they call the Irish shanties, bro? Like shanty Irish. That's what I want to know.
I have no idea.
I have the answer.
Random thought. What is
I have to step up here, I guess.
You're the Irish.
Back in the day, they were living in shanties.
Shanties, yeah, exactly.
Oh,
in the shanty town,
the shanty Irish in the shanty towns.
Right, they had small little thrown up, lean-tos and buildings. You know,
when they came here, they were poor.
And then we stepped up and moved to Breezy Point.
And Long Beach too.
And Long Beach, yeah.
Yeah.
You guys don't know. I'm officially Italian now. I no longer call myself Irish. You guys didn't watch the shows previously.
I don't. How did you become officially Italian? That wasn't run by me. I get a vote in that.
You did because I did a DNA. I did a DNA test. That's why.
He sold his DNA
test and it came back.
You got the card and everything. I mean,
I do.
What percentage?
That's why he's angry all the time now.
What percentage?
25%.
All right, so that's minute. That's probably your head.
Well, the good part of that is Sicilian, you know.
18% Sicilian.
All right.
Well, or maybe he just identifies.
Moving right along.
I'm identifying as an Italian.
Oh my goodness!
Wow. We're getting close to that time, boys.
That was the Italian that brought the case against Louis today. I get it.
Yeah.
So is it getting about that time, Pete?
We're getting
okay. It's good.
We wore out our welcome.
We're getting close.
I don't know.
You want to?
What's that thing on the right there? What's that?
Yeah,
what is that? A heater?
Okay, so that's again. I've told this story before, but we talked about spontaneous combustion. Well, and I told you it actually did happen. It happened to a site that I was at. Luckily, I wasn't working. It was a weekend day, and the floor guys had come in, and they were staining the floors. They were supposed to be using a water-based finish. Unbeknownst to anybody, the design had changed it to a VOC, a VOC type finish, so as the guys were wiping the floors, get the stain on, they were throwing the rags in a bag, a plastic bag, and then at the end of the day, they tied the plastic bag up, was put in one of these canvas carts and then brought down to the loading dock where all the garbage was going out. And about 8 o'clock that night, as it was off gassing, boom, it ignited, and everything on the loading dock started burning. And I mean, there's a lot of that's where the dumpsters are stored, and a lot of garbage going out. So there was a lot for the weekend. There was so much fire on that dock that it was going out the back of the loading dock, and the fire ended up cracking and crazing some of the glass on the apartment house behind.
Wow!
I think it ended up going to a second alarm because they needed to get companies in that building behind the one that was under construction, and that was all because of spontaneous combustion with these rags that were off gassing. So again, because that happened, and a big investigation, once we determined that they got reprimanded for not letting us know that they changed the finishes. We made them buy these containers, which they're designed, to contain any type of, spontaneous combustion. But we made them put water in them too, and put the rags in there. At the end of each day, they would have to bring those down, and they were put in a designated small dumpster that was waterproofed, full of water. So, to keep that. But again, we've talked about this happening. It can happen in a private dwelling. You could be pulling up to a private dwelling where the people got the floors redone.
Oh, yeah.
In the old days, where if there's still pilot lights around, I've seen them.
Me and Ruffy had one of those in Maspeth when it was Brian Fahey was blowing out the front door.
Yeah,
right.
What is VOC, Hank? Is that you getting in touch with your hazmat self?
A volatile.
VOC is a volatile organic compound. Did that impress you, Cap? Like
very impressive.
Maybe he was really hanging out with the hazmat guys.
I'm going to get him one of the hazmat pins for his
uniform. Please. Yes.
See here it says squad and hazmat right here.
That's right.
Look at you. You impressed the shit out of me, Hank.
Very impressive.
That's the only thing I ever learned, but I figured I'd throw it out there.
That's hazmat Hank from now on.
So
that was the meter, Coop, the buck, right? We had the meter.
Yeah, I just wanted.
As a well-rounded firefighter, you should know what a volatile organic compound is.
I just wanted to hear it from you, bro.
I
wanted to hear it from you. You had probably
full responsibility because it was my job to teach you. I obviously failed.
Just because I was talking about fire duty with Captain Murphy and you were hanging out with, Neil Yank, I don't want, it's okay. It's all good, bro. It's okay.
All right, listen, move along before I smack you. All right. So
go ahead, Hank. This is your
all right, and then let me know if we're wearing out a welcome at this point. All right, we talked about
never, but we're getting there though.
I don't know if this happens in other cities. Listen, Chicago, Boston, Atlanta, Seattle. There's lots of cities with lots of high rises, so I don't know what happens there. But in New York, with the developers, when you're putting up a building that's 1,400 feet, it could take 4 years to complete. So that means you have a lot of money out there, and you're paying interest on it. So however they worked it with the building department, as these buildings are going up and they reach a certain point, they call them TCOs, where they get them ready for a temporary certificate of occupancy, which means, okay, the building, at least the standpipe has to be in fully. So in other words, if it's a 1,400 foot building, the 1,400 foot has to be there. But you got to remember, the finishes could be 2 years behind getting up there. So the building has to be up in the skeletal part. Usually the curtain wall has to be up, and the standpipe has to be in and operational. Now that happens, and the alarm system has to be in. Okay, so a working alarm system. So at that point, they can go for a TCO. So maybe floors. Maybe the first 20 floors are a hotel. And then after that, so now the hotel may already be in operation, and you got construction going on above it. Now they're going to start occupying the floors because remember these, they're selling these condos $2, $3, $4, $5, $6, $7 million. So they want to get closed so they can get their money and move it on. So now they get the TCO. You're working in a building that's still a substantial amount of construction going on. There's still maybe plumbing going in above, HVAC, electricians, you name it, let alone, the regular finishes. And now you got people that are moving into this building and they're occupying it. So you're pulling up to this building, you have numerous things to deal with here. First off, gathering information. Hopefully you've been keeping up with the building if it's in your district, so you know what's going on. If you're not, then shame on you. Secondly, they have to have a fire safety director at this point. The fire safety director should have a book letting you know, all right, I have people occupying these apartments on these floors. So at least you have a heads up and you know if you have to get people to those floors. You're going to be dealing with construction, with hoists going on the outside of the building, and you're going to be dealing with working elevators on the inside of the building. Again, now this, I don't know, in New York, you have the hoists go by construction floor, each floor, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, up to 100, 120. All right. But the floors inside could be vanity floors. All right. So, they first off, there may not be a 13th floor. They want the penthouse to be floor 100, even though maybe there's not 100 floors. So if they have to do away with 15 floors in the middle somewhere, they'll do that.
No shit.
So your elevator might be going to floor 15. You hear it's on floor 10, but that's because the construction, it's floor 10. So if you get in the hoist, you got to know you're going to floor 10 on the construction hoist. If you're going on the interior elevator, you got to know you're going to floor 15. So that's what this chart is. That's a chart on the right that I actually made up when I was a fire safety director with the little notes. And all of this was in we had a big red box that has to be for the fire department at the entrance. When they get there, they open that box and any pertinent information should be in there. The layout of the building, what's working, what's in service, what's not in service. And, I would always try to.
This is really, really confusing to when you walk into the place for the first time. So what I'm saying is, if you're a firefighter, and I'm not talking about now the rest of the country, I'm talking about New York. If you're a firefighter where any of these buildings are going up, these super talls, or even these 40 and 50 story buildings, they're all doing this now. You got to pay attention to this, because when you get up there and it's 2:00 in the morning and the guy who just brought you up there doesn't speak English, all right, and you're up there and you're getting ready, all right, I'm on the floor below, I'm hooking up, and your chauffeur asks you what floor you're on, it's a good idea to be able to give him an answer, all right? What floor am I on? And look at what he's talking about. This is really confusing.
Right. Right. I believe because of this, I think even I had written an article in WNYF to try to make the brothers aware of this. Now this may be going on in other cities. I don't know. I mean, I would assume that their developers are the same as ours, where they're looking, if they're starting to put up these higher and higher buildings, where they can start getting people into them before they're finished, or even if they're not, even if they're dealing with once the elevators are in, and the construction hoist, right there you have problems. Even if
there's differences of 10 floors on some of those things.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's not made. I mean, that was for real. That was out of one of the buildings.
Incredible. Some of them are 5, some of them are, that's incredible.
And at different points they might vary, because you might reach a point where it's, like I say, a vanity floor, and then boom, now it all of a sudden went from 70 to 80. So I mean, these are the things you have to know. And again, these buildings, when we talk about buildings going up, they're not 6 months. You may be dealing with a building here for 4 or 5 years in your district that's going up, where you're going to be dealing with a dry stamp pipe, and no interior alarms, to a wet stamp pipe, to a partial interior alarm, to a partially occupied building, to elevators running on some of it, but we still have, construction hoists working on the outside of the building. So you might, you might have a crane operating at this point. Usually not, but there could be a tower crane on the outside of the building. And these are all things that you have to know when you're going into this building, because again, when I know it's getting late, there's so many more hazards to talk about. I think if we haven't bored you to death, we'll come back another night to finish some of this stuff. But that's up to you guys. I know it's late.
Bored us to death. Come on, bro. You're saving lives here, bro.
100%.
Well, where are we at? How much more are we at, Pete?
I mean,
It's quite a ways, right?
We got quite a ways. It's I think we
back again. It's not a problem.
Yeah, we should come back because I did call this episode 1.
Okay.
I knew this was going to go long, but it always does, and then we always come back to it. We always come around again. So we should do that.
We can. Do you guys want to come back on? Can we do it again?
Listen, if it's always all right with me. I got to tell you something, and I'm letting everybody out there know. Dennis is the one. He's the mastermind. Dennis is his presentation, majority of his pictures and his knowledge. I'm just riding his coattails here. So if he wants to come back, I'm always happy to do some color commentary. But
all right, let me blank Hank out.
He's the
Cap. How do you feel about coming back on? Can you come back on, Cap?
Nice talking to you. Bye.
I love you, Hank. I love you, Frank.
I love you, Frank.
I wouldn't mind.
Frank,
I wouldn't mind getting a couple of the guys that we used to work with to do this too. Who are still doing this.
Random thoughts. Invite. Throw some names at us. We'll get them on.
Yeah,
we can do that.
We'll talk about it afterwards.
And we could add some more. How many do we have left? Like 5 or 6, something like that.
Yeah, I just wanted to go to 43, but you know what? That's a long slide to begin with. It's the biggest thing is just to wrap up with, it's an awareness. This is all about awareness. Large buildings, infrequent types of alarms or responses. But if you were in a company in Midtown Manhattan or any of those other areas that there's a lot of high rise going up with, this is one of those low frequency, high risk type of things that you can get in a lot of trouble real fast because there's a lot of hazards. I mean, I've got a slide at 43 that has about 24 hazards on it, and that's not even all of them. It's just a lot of stuff that can go wrong that you deal with in construction sites all the time. So whether you're in a big high-rise capital like New York, or you're out in Plainfield, Indiana, and they're building a 1.2 million square foot distribution center, these buildings are not your typical responses, obviously, so it's something you got to pay a lot of attention to. And just what Hank was talking about, which is a very common practice with these different floor designations, that's the kind of simple thing that can really screw us up.
Yep.
That's like the Paul floor, for God's
sake. Yeah.
Well, that's only one floor. We can't get that right.
Yeah, we can't. In a 4-story building, we can't get that figured out.
Right. What floor are you on? I'm on the first floor, second floor. I'm on the Paula floor. I don't know where I am. I don't know what's going on. Christ almighty.
All right, so Captain's a yes. That means Hank on the coattails will be a yes.
Yeah, that's good.
And we're going to add, 1 or 2 more guys?
Yeah, one or two. Yeah, I'll see if they're interested. So.
All right.
Cap, I think you did the captain a good job, on the random thoughts.
Thanks.
Yeah.
You did.
He would love this to be just sitting around with guys that he knew and just talking. This is his. We
would have got him on the show.
He would. I miss him every day. He was just the best, the absolute best. So
well, it says something that's like you said, 15 years later.
Well, put it this way: when we were kids, reading, I always would go to the back, right? You always would go to the back to see what they were talking about. That was the first thing you looked at. You looked at the cover and you flipped it in to look at what he wrote.
Yep.
But and there's
only a handful of guys that I can think of that I really go out of my way to read their stuff. He was the first, but guys like John Salka, John Norman, Mike
Vinny Dunn.
Vinny Dunn would be right at the top of the list, but he's not writing that much anymore in the magazines, So,
right.
But he's still prolific as far as the books go. But those guys, and then there's a lot of up and coming guys, but those are the guys that I just mentioned that I've always read, pretty closely, So it's one of those things. But like I said, it is a tribute to Captain Brennan, and he certainly deserves it. And hopefully his family takes it in the vein that we're still thinking about him.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I hope so. Listen,
can you imagine being a young guy watching these shows?
Oh, come on.
I can't even imagine listening to you guys.
I know we talk about the kitchen table. A lot of funny shit happens and personal shit and marriage and love, but this stuff is what's going to save lives. And this is the stuff that you, like we said, Cap, you can't get this out of books. All this stuff, this personal first-hand experience, you can't get it out of a book. So this is the biggest part of the Firehouse kitchen table. We're just thankful to have guys like you and Frank on.
And really, most of tonight was really, like I said, they were random thoughts. We're throwing stuff out there to make guys put their thinking caps on. You know, we really didn't give you too many remedies, maybe some.
Right. You know. This was all stuff you're not going to get every day. In other words, you are not going to respond to these calls every day. You may only do a couple of these in your career, but they're very different than a 2.5-story PD on a side street in town. You know, it's the polar opposite.
And go back to what Tom Brennan always said: you can never learn too much about a job that can kill you.
Yeah, I love that. That sounds like a shirt to me, Ruffy. We'll put Captain Brennan on there. You know what I mean? We'll put it on there.
That's
Tommy Truck. That's it.
Yeah. Oh, let's do that, Ruffy. Tommy Truck says. Send me that.
Tommy Truck says.
Tommy Truck. I mean, you know, it's like Pete says. We're spitballing, right, Pete?
Yes, spitballing, throwing around the ideas.
That's the lingo in the biz. We're spitballing.
Spitballing ideas, definitely.
If you guys want to send really quick, if you guys want to send some money to help Hank get some better internet connection, feel free to do it on the super chat.
Come on, it wasn't that bad tonight. In the beginning, it was with the thunderstorms, but
that lady probably stopped watching Judge Judy next door.
You know, it was okay. It was really good. Really, it was all right.
Really, you should talk about yours.
I got this sitting on my desk now, bro. I never have a problem.
Verizon. All right. So, do we want to do shout outs real quick before you sign off?
Yes, I want before we do. I want to thank Captain and Hank for coming out. Like we said before, you're not going to get this in any book or magazine. And we talked about this and getting these guys on to tell firsthand experience. I can't thank these guys for coming on the show. Can't thank them enough. Cap, thanks.
Yeah,
thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, Hank, we're going to have you back on again. Even this segment of the Random Thoughts, we've already booked 3 hardcore engine guys, right, Ruffy? We got Timmy Klett, Sarno, and Lieutenant Bruno, all engine guys. We're going to have an engine ops Random Thoughts.
Excellent.
And we can thank Cat Murphy and actually Tom Brennan and Senior Dude for bringing this up. And I'd like to thank you all.
Thank you.
What do you got, Petey? Go with it.
Do you want to do the Long Beach one first, and then I'm going to do the LODD?
Okay. So we got
This is a tough one, man.
Yeah, it was an FDNY guy. It was a freak accident.
Casey Scudin, who's also
a Long Beach guy. He's a Rockaway firefighter, and it was just a freak accident. And it's so sad, you know. And
well, just to explain to the audience who may not know, he was on a vacation with his family on Father's Day and his birthday. So he's driving along, and a 2,000-pound limb fell off of a tree, instantaneously killed him, injured his children, one severely, and actually his wife sustained minor injuries as well. When I actually have taken a couple of his classes at his CrossFit, you know, he would fill in and cover for Island Park CrossFit, and I would see him around town. Wasn't a friend of his or anything like that, but great guy by all accounts.
Tough loss, really tough loss.
This one, I was on vacation when I heard about this. It hit me, and then you know, because I was on vacation with my family. You know, I'm sitting there with my kids, and they're missing their dad.
If you guys don't know, the Scudin family is big in Long Beach in surfing and swimming. They run the swimming class for kids. It's just a very solid family in the Long Beach community, and it's going to be a tough loss. So, thoughts and prayers go out to his wife and his kids. Man, it's tough.
That one really gut punched me. So, Casey, wherever you are, brother, I hope you're in a better place. Sorry that you're taken too soon. And then the next one is a line of duty death here. This is coming from our friend Joe Sperber. Hey, Pete, could you please make mention of this evening of line of duty death, Hop Hog Fire Department ex-chief Stephen Ferran. Steve was on the Suffolk County USAR team. The unit was conducting a water rescue exercise on Saturday, June 11th at Smith Point Beach when he suffered a medical emergency and died after being transported to Long Island Hospital. His dad, Stephen, was also a former chief at Hop Hog FD. He's survived by his wife and son and daughter. His funeral was held Saturday, June 17th at St. Thomas More Church with interment at St. Charles Cemetery. So very sad. Yep. Very sad indeed, especially shots like this. with his family.
I got happier news.
You do?
I do.
What, you want to play golf today?
I did play golf, but that's not what I'm talking about.
Oh, right.
Hold on, let me just take this shot down. There you go.
From Lisa. This was a while back. She sent me this on June 7th. Hi, my name is Lisa. I'm writing in regards to my father. He's a huge fan of your podcast. He never misses an episode, and our family appreciates the laughter and joy that Getting Salty brings to him.
Nice.
He's a busy guy working 4 jobs. He was once the chief of Hasbrook Heights and is currently an active firefighter in both Saddlebrook and Hasbrook Heights. He's also a fire inspector and investigator. Fire is his life. It runs in the family. It's his legacy. I'm writing you today. I just feel I've done a pretty good job of always giving him a meaningful gift. If you could, I think it would be a step up and make it a little more special if you could wish him a happy birthday, which his name is Rob Knobloch. Happy birthday, brother, is June 29th.
Oh, Robbie
Happy
Knobloch.
birthday, Rob.
Happy birthday, Rob.
Happy birthday, Rob.
Right.
All right.
What is he, 79?
Who?
What'd you say? How old he is he?
Oh, did I have it on there? I don't
79.
know.
Well,
And what's that you say?
what?
245 Sutton
what
Street.
you say.
6387.
What's that you say?
So listen, we're off on Thursday night because I have a wedding. My sister's getting married. I'm not sure if we're going to do a show on the 4th, right? Probably we're off.
Nah, I would say we're probably not,
We're
right?
back on Thursday. Again, I like to thank Captain Murphy and Hank, 2 of the guys I have the most respect for on the J.O. Bizzle. Thanks for coming on.
You're welcome,
And,
Capt.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Yeah, we're going to do a whole lot more of this, and we got a lot of good guests coming up. You know what? We're going to throw a calendar out, Pete, of all the guests we got coming out. I'm going to take care of that tomorrow and send you all the guys that we got. And that's it.
All right,
Anything else, Pete?
All right. Good night,
Nope.
Leatherheaders.
Night,
Stay
guys.
safe.
All right, let me just do a quick sign off, boys, before we get out of here. Real quick, find us on any of the audio players because we do audio of each show as well. So just, iTunes, Spotify, wherever. YouTube.com/Getting Salty Experience. If you're here, please hit that like, subscribe, and share. Instagram, guys, Salty Dog Inc. is what you will find us. Great photos and last minute info of the show. GettingSaltyApparel.com, guys. Again, that's how we got started with the apparel and the accessories. So check that out. Thank you to all the super chatters tonight. We really appreciate it. And if you guys are watching this after the show's off the air, hit us up in the super thanks. We really appreciate that as well. You guys are our #1 sponsors and syndicators. Facebook, guys, Getting Salty fans page. 40-something thousand. It's crazy in there. Lots of great info, lots of great back and forth going on, a little bit of ball busting too. Lots of fun. So check that out. If you guys want to advertise on the show, it's gettingsaltyads@gmail.com. Email us your questions for our Q&As or questions for maybe even some of our guests. Maybe we'll have them return and answer some of your questions at gettingsaltyexperience@gmail.com. Coop's podcast at gmail.com for all the cocklofts and cocktails and all that sort of good stuff. That's your helmet pics, your fire photos, your any helmet cam footage that you got, hot old lady contest. You know the deal, guys. That's everything with those cocklofts and cocktails and Cup of Joe and Fuego shows that we do. And guys, I think that's it. That's all the news that's fit in print.
Nice.
Boom.
We got a big show coming up on August 6th. It's going to be a little bit of a surprise. It's going to be a whiz bang of a show.
Whiz bang.
We're taking it on the road. Yep, we're taking the show on the road August 6th. More details to be announced soon.
Whiz bang.
I like that, right? Whiz bang? All
Whiz
right.
bang.
And listen, I bought this. Louis knows where I bought this, right? When I saw the one where we went to Syracuse, this was going to be originally a gavel to put Pete in order when he asked questions that are out of order. I bang the gavel like that. Objection.
You're going to wore it out.
Silly question.
Oh, we're gonna wear it out.
Look at
Frank's
Frank
hitting below the
throwing
belt.
What do you say? Are you gonna wear the gavel out? Oh,
Yeah.
All right.
Welcome
He's
back,
up
Pete.
his,
Ruffy, I'm glad you're feeling better.
Thank you,
If
boys.
If you want to chime in on the great lawsuit, please let us know who you feel is right in the comments below. And if we get enough comments where Louis wrong, he will apologize to me on the air. Thank you very much. That's all I got to say. All right.
They're just gonna want to see him apologize. That's what's going on right there.
Listen, the truth is the truth. That's all I could say.
Well, listen, if you ask for it with no cheese,
if you ask said, can I have 3 Egg McMuffins, no cheese? The guy should have asked for 3 Egg McMuffins with no cheese.
Dennis, you ready? Let's go. The hell with these guys.
All right. We're out of here.
We'll see you at the next one. Hank, Cap, stay on. Stay low and go.
Take care, guys.
Later,
we'll see you at the big one, everybody.
Cheers, everybody.